Good morning. We are back in Better Than Ever. Mike and Mike. ESPN Radio live on your TV on ESPN2. Presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Subway Fresh Take Hotline. This, of course, the legendary song where I had what can only be described as the incident at my breakfast diner. This is the one where I was standing in line to pay directly behind a woman whose height just happened to place her ear right where my mouth was. And
someone you didn't know?
No, never seen in my entire life. Lovely woman. That's taking out an order against me. I was standing right behind her. And I had just been having breakfast with my daughter and a bunch of her friends. And that song, we had played that song in the car like 200 times.
So you were singing it somewhat aloud.
Without realizing it, I was singing directly into this woman's ear as we are getting set to pay for our respective breakfasts. I was singing, I want to thrill you like Michael. I want to kiss you like Prince. And she turned to me and said, excuse me?
Wow.
And I start stammering. And you know that moment when you got a bunch of kids with you and you're just Mr. Dopey Dad and you just assume it's going, I'm sorry, I was just singing a song. It was not okay. It was definitively not okay with her. She definitively thought I was trying to come on to her by singing into her ear. I want to thrill you like Michael. I want to kiss you like... Let me say this. I've been married 17 years. I haven't thrilled my wife like Michael yet.
No, you have not.
Not once.
But she doesn't know you, this lady, and she didn't know that, and she
so
just...
maybe for all she knows, I could thrill her like
Michael.
Michael.
Some kind of perv, quite honestly. What did she actually say to you?
She said, excuse me, and then she just sort of seemed a tad put off.
So you said to her, sorry, it's a song.
I'm sorry, it's a song. I got the song stuck in my head. And she just seemed not real happy. And then what made it excruciating is that it was during this sort of breakfast rush. So there were a lot of people paying in front of us, so we had to just stand there.
After the incident, you just continued to stand behind her. Then
there was really nothing else for me to do.
I would imagine in silence.
Oh, excruciatingly awkward silence.
I may have taken an amount of money that was higher than the bill, so I didn't have to worry about it, laid it on the counter and said, children, let's go.
Oh, I just stood there. Yeah. If I could have grabbed a knife, I would have stabbed myself in the eye. Yeah. Outside of that, nothing else could have made the moment more excruciating.
You know what would have been better, I'm sure, for your ego, if she turned around and smiled at you.
She said, hey, I'd like you to kiss me like Prince. I'd like to be your princess. There was certainly none of that going on. All right, Mike and Mike, here we go. Have we reached the end of the saga of Donald Sterling?
Oh, God.
No, we have not. But we took a significant step in that direction yesterday, and that's the good news. Shelley Sterling on the L.A. Clippers scored a clean sweep over Donald when a California judge issued a preliminary ruling that paves the way for the $2 billion sale of the team. Judge Michael Levanis handed down an oral tentative statement decision that affirmed Shelley had the authority to reach an agreement in May to sell the team to former Microsoft CEO Steve Ballmer, who has set an August 15th deadline to complete the deal. The judge said he would review objections before issuing a written ruling. If Donald continues to fight, in the judge's ruling is a key provision in California trust law that allows Shelley to proceed with the sale of the team, quote, as if no appeal were pending. The judge said Rochelle's testimony, that Shelley Sterling, was far and away more credible than Donald. Donald's answers were often evasive and in one instance were inconsistent with his previous testimony. It's important to point out at this point the ruling is oral. It's not written. It is not binding, but it is a significant move forward in allowing Shelley Sterling to sell the Clippers to Steve Ballmer.
I didn't know which way it was going to go. I just tried to do the best thing for our family and for everybody else. I think we have the best new owner that anybody could ever find, and I think it'll be even better than it was before.
Even better than it was before. The bar is set extraordinarily low.
The bar is laying on the ground.
Yeah, after 30 years in which Donald Sterling was beyond being, before we knew,
forgetting me off the court, right?
Before anyone was paying attention.
Yeah, just him as an owner of a basketball team.
He was an horrendous owner in the NBA, and so it is going to be way better than that. And maybe better even than the last couple of years where they've gone from being a doormat and a laughingstock to being a really glamorous franchise and one in good shape. If this thing does wind up going through, and this certainly was a big day and a big step toward that yesterday, it could be very good news for the Clippers.
So nothing is written, nothing is final. He can appeal, but according to provision 1310B, which I did know about when I was studying for my LSATs in California.
Yeah, sure.
So it might as well be no appeal anywhere. They can go ahead with the sale. no matter what's going on.
I love how you threw that. That was just beautifully done.
Did you like
because
that?
you know why? Well, here's the beauty of that moment.
Some people are going to believe it.
That's the thing, is that, I only half pay attention to you when you're talking anyway. So as you said that, my first thought was, oh.
Yeah.
Really? When did Golick take the LSATs in California? And then I realized that was just a well-played, well-delivered little joke.
No. When I was playing ball, when we would play some games in California, I would do some quick study, and then one time when we were there, I took the test.
Mike, you used to go to the bar. You definitely did not take the bar. Right? You didn't pass the bar. You never passed the bar in your entire life.
That's a good point.
Golick has never walked past the bar, much less passed the bar. I'm sorry. But you were saying.
The bottom line is, as Greeny was reading, the decision hasn't been written yet. It hasn't been finalized yet. And Donald Sterling and his team can appeal, but you can do all of that, but you can appeal, and at the same time, the sale can go ahead. So it's kind of a weird stipulation.
In case you're wondering how our legal system has gotten into a state of flux, they can appeal.
I appeal. Good for you. They're still going to sell. Good luck with the appeal.
They can sell, but the appeal can go on.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
But they can go through with the sale as though the appeal was not going on.
Yes.
So I don't know where that leaves anybody. Here's Sterling's lawyer, Donald's lawyer, Bobby Samini.
This is, one stage of a long war. This is one battle. We had hoped for a different result, but this is not the end.
One of the lines from the lawyer in all the sound bites was Donald told them, keep fighting. And that's Donald Sterling in a nutshell. He's going to keep, all kind of lawsuits going, as you, I think, correctly said a while ago in layman's terms, throw a lot of it up against the wall and see how long he can gum up the works and see if he can get any traction anywhere. There's not a lot of people that think he can get traction. And it seemed, from what we understand through a lot of his career in court, that he would basically wear down his opponent with this strategy, but this is an opponent with deeper pockets and an opponent that I don't think is going to get worn down because, quite honestly, the owners don't want to end up at reverting back to them and having to vote Donald Sterling out. They would like the Shelley Sterling to win in court so it never even gets back to them.
Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. Now you can test drive Snapshot, see how much you could save before switching to Progressive. Visit progressive.com/snapshot. The NBA's statement on this was very brief. Quote, we are pleased that the court has affirmed Shelley Sterling's right to sell the L.A. Clippers to Steve Ballmer. We look forward to the transaction closing as soon as possible. I have more sound bites here. This is Arash Markazi, ESPN.com's Los Angeles Clippers reporter.
He has not been in the courtroom, by the way, since he called his wife that name. He has not been back. I'm assuming his attorneys told him not to return. So he was not there today. But his attorney said he is believing this is just one part of a long war.
So that he's talking about Donald Sterling.
Oh, yeah. And one part, when the judge was talking about he found Shelley much more credible than Donald. Remember, Donald talked about the love for his wife, and then
I got that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Here's Roger Cossack, our legal analyst, with his reaction to all of this.
It's not surprising considering what the doctors had said who testified against Sterling, that he was incompetent to act as a trustee in the best interest of the Clippers. And, he certainly didn't help his case by the way he acted out in court. As Araj indicates, telling him one time that he loved his wife and the other time calling her a pig in open court. You add that together, this is not a surprising ruling that a judge finds that he is mentally incompetent to act as a co-trustee. But let me remind you, he may have been removed as a co-trustee, but he's not removed as an owner. So when that $2 billion sale goes through, he's still entitled to half of it.
Yeah, so he's going to get his money. And let's go all the way back now to May, when this whole thing first started and people were talking about fairness. Let's not talk about what's fair in a court of law, because, A, you and I are not expert enough in that area to even really know, and B, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about what in a larger sense is fair. All of this essentially stems not from a lifetime of what appears to have been ill deeds as a slumlord, because no one, let's face it, no one paid nearly enough attention to that. Bomani Jones wrote a column, Jamel Hill wrote a column, and no one paid attention. So shame on all of us, everyone, starting with the NBA, the rest of the owners, all of us in the media, and everybody else, for just largely ignoring that and mostly making fun of the fact that he drafted Michael Olowokandi and didn't pay, people when it came time to pay them. We focused on the least significant things. But now let's get into what actually happened. A tape recording of him saying things that were horrifying to almost any sane person listening became public, and that began a snowball rolling downhill, which ultimately led to his ouster as owner of the team. And as people, the people who wanted to say this is unfair based upon the fact that it was a tape recording and people have committed crimes and this is not a crime, I understand and appreciate that perspective. But in the end, what's going to wind up happening is what should happen. He's being removed from the club. However it wound up happening, I wanted the owners to vote him out. But he's going to be removed from the club because being a part of that association is, as we sometimes like to say, a privilege, not a right. And he violated that privilege a million different ways, but certainly in this case by bringing enormous embarrassment, whether it was his fault or whether it was he did it purposely or not. He brought enormous embarrassment and disrepute upon the league, and so he deserves to be removed. But you can't take his property away, and no one did. No one is. They're telling him he has to sell it, but they're giving him the money.
Oh, he gets the money.
And by the way, he bought something for $12 million, and his share of the sale is going to be $1 billion. So all things considered, in my opinion at least, and certainly intelligent minds can disagree, but in my opinion at least, this is exactly the way this thing should end.
Well, yeah, he's out of the league. And for those that are thinking, well, the owners never voted, so is he still banned? Yes, he's still banned. Remember, the owners were just going to vote him out as an owner. That never came to fruition. He's still an owner, and the sale is going to go through, and as Greeny said, he's going to get his money. Adam Silver, as commissioner, banned him from the NBA. That ban's in place. He is still banned from the NBA. The vote by the owners was just to oust him as an owner, and again, the owners want no part of ever making that vote. They don't ever want it to come back to that. That was one of the biggest sighs of relief coming from all those owners that they didn't have to make that vote.
Now, I guess the question becomes, with a personality as seemingly volatile as Donald Sterling's, let's say this thing does come to whatever end it comes to. It sort of peters out. His legal options wind up being exhausted. You think he does anything else? You think he tries to still, you can still hire investigators to investigate people and dig up whatever dirt you can and get the information out there however you want to.
Sure you could.
So, I mean, the fact that the owners don't get together and officially vote him out, do you think that means he leaves them alone, or do you think he still goes after them?
Let me answer that with a question to you. If he did that, would it surprise you?
No, not at all.
There you go. So, I mean...
So we've not heard the last of Donald Sterling.
This man is 80 years old. He's certainly closer to the end than he is to when he was young. We know that. It's just how much he wants to continue this. I certainly don't know that. I know we know of his history to fight, but at some point, even that wanes, and will it here? He's going to stay in the courts, but when that starts to dry up, one litigation after another, what does he do? Is he that vindictive where he does things off the court like that, hire investigators, which he said he was going to do before that vote? I have no idea, but that's all I can do is answer it with a question. Would it surprise you if he did? And I think we both know the answer is no. So who knows?
So on it goes. Again, is this the end? It is not. Is it the beginning of the end? It may be. And we'll see. But I do think it is becoming increasingly obvious that he doesn't have any real legal options. His legal options, anyone, it seems to me, anyone with the money to do it can create some sort of lawsuit in the society in which we live.
That's what he seemed to do, and his way of going about his business worked for him in the past, and it doesn't seem like it's going to work.
Right, but I guess what I'm saying, that's right. But what I'm saying is, I think he probably can continue to throw a bunch of stuff out there just if he feels like it, and certainly he can afford to do it. But I think the chances of his being a real pest legally, someone who can genuinely prevent the things that need to happen from happening, seem to be dwindling.
I agree. It doesn't seem like it's going to gain any traction. So there we are with that. I'm a little hurt already. We just started the show. Make a couple of early jokes.
Only 14 minutes in.
Come in the way I look today. I have one. Anybody who's watching said, Golick, your shirt looks like it's from the set of a 1950 window curtain.
I don't agree.
I mean, seriously?
I'm not going to lie to you. These new shirts that you've gotten, I've seen you have a bunch of these, right, in different colors. I love them.
Thank you.
I love them on you. Now, I could not wear them. What looks good on one person doesn't necessarily look good on another. What looks good on someone who is 6'5", 270 pounds, or whatever you are,
62.
versus someone who's 5'11" and 3/4.
Yeah.
I just went to the doctor last week.
Okay.
I actually had a fight with the nurse.
Oh, come on.
She goes, can we weigh? And we go to the weighing and the measuring. We weigh me in 179. Okay, I'm happy with that. My goal weight is 175, so I'm just getting close. And then she says, height, and I say, you don't even have to bother with height. I'm 5'11 3/4. We just measured me on my show in February. Remember that?
I sure do.
She puts me down as 5'11 1/2. And she's like, no, look, it's 5'11 1/2. I said, you're pressing my hair down. It's 5'11 3/4.
Well, she should press your hair down. Your hair doesn't count.
No, but she's pushing me down. She's pushing me down.
So you think that now what you're saying is, first, let me make a statement.
Go ahead.
That I said two things about me already hated this morning, and I went through one, and you turned the conversation to you.
Well, but I like the shirt.
15, yeah, I didn't get to the other one where someone said I couldn't pass the LSATs because I couldn't spell LSAT. But, well, I'll move past that now. But you've turned it to you, which has been my life for 15 years.
Can I turn one other thing to me then?
Do you really think a nurse can put her hand on the top of your head and compress you 1/4 of an inch? Do you really think that's possible? Your hair, she can push down, but you're basically saying she was compressing you 1/4 of an inch.
That's right.
Your body.
Yes.
She has got to be the strongest woman alive.
Yeah, and she is. You should have seen the biceps on her. Anyway, so what I was trying to say is that shirt would not look good on me, but I do think it looks very good on
Thank you.
I disagree with whomever said that.
I'll be wearing it all day, all through the game.
Now, I think it is possible that you could not spell LSAT.
I don't agree with that at all.
But of course, it isn't a word.
No, it is not.
So it's okay if you can't spell it.
What does it stand for?
Well, it's the law SAT.
I know that.
I don't know.
Okay.
It's the legal scholastic aptitude test.
Okay.
I'm making that up. I have no idea.
Good.
Can we look that up, Cookie?
The way you said it, I mean, go to Cookie's the only one.
We have, by the way, our staff we have
disintegrated.
It's like, and this is like the end of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
We just keep losing them.
It's just me and Golick running out there by ourselves.
We just named someone on our staff. No, he got picked off.
Liam's not here. Uranaga's not here. Randy's not here. We got Biz not here. We got nothing. There's nobody
So
here.
we're talking about that before the show, and there's Mo working behind the camera saying, I'm here, guys. And you know what that is? 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Yeah,
Mo.
that's a detriment to the entire process.
I mean, that's not moving us forward.
It is the law school admission test. The law school admission test.
Okay.
I would have thought it would have been something better than that.
Yeah,
I mean, LSAT, it just seems so law school admissions test.
Yeah, it sounds difficult.
It sounds so
but it really wasn't.
Everything in legal is Latin and all that
quite
kind of stuff.
honestly, it wasn't that hard.
In fact, you could have probably guessed it. Well, whatever. All right, so that's the Sterling thing. So what top story out there, I suppose, yesterday, and on we can go from there. Certainly our interview yesterday with Adolfo Birch got a great deal of attention. It remains, to my knowledge, the only public comment that any official from the National Football League has made about the Ray Rice suspension. If you did not hear it yesterday, we're going to play a portion of it coming up for you in about 15 minutes, and you get your thoughts, and then we'll get Herman Edwards in here in our studio, and we'll get his thoughts. We have Jimbo Fisher today in our studio. He'll give us his Subway fresh take as he gets set to defend his college football national championship. Jason Stark with his trivia later this morning, and a very special visit from a very inspirational person. We have details on that coming up. Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance, and right now a word from Stamps.com. Mike, making trips to the post office is becoming a thing of the past. You just don't need to do it anymore thanks to Stamps.com.
No, you don't want to try and find parking, wait in line, which you probably didn't know, though. You're paying more for postage than you have to. Stamps.com is the better way. Buy and print official U.S. postage, and wherever your computer and printer is, that's now your post office. Buy that official U.S. postage for any letter, any package, right from your computer and printer. Then just hand it to the mailman. With Stamps.com, you get special postage discounts you can't even get at the post office on first class, priority mail, international, and more. Never have to go to the post office again. You'll pay less for postage than you would at the post office. Special postage discounts right now for Stamps.com customers. Use our promo code Mike for the special offer, no-risk trial, plus a $110 bonus offer. Includes a digital scale, up to $55 free postage. Don't wait. Go to Stamps.com before you do anything else. Click on the microphone at the top of the homepage. Type in Mike. That's Stamps.com. Enter Mike.
All right, Mike and Mike, as we roll along, and Sports Center rolls along as well. Its training camp coverage continues today. And go look some interesting teams that they're covering today. They got the Saints,
right,
and of course their star quarterback Drew Brees. They got the Panthers, who were a surprise team last year, and we'll see if they're able to back that up behind Cam Newton. You got the Dolphins, who were team turmoil last year. You got the Falcons, who had a very disappointing season last year, and of course,
J-E-T-S, Jets.
SportsCenter at the Jets camp today after their acquisitions of Chris Johnson and Michael Vick during this offseason. Chris Johnson leads the NFL in rushing touchdowns of at least 20 yards since entering the league in 2008. He actually is the second leading rusher in the NFL since he entered the league. Only Adrian Peterson has more yards. And Michael Vick, who is expected to back up Geno Smith, and we'll see. I keep going back and forth on how I think that will play out.
That one, and when that first happened, we at first thought, okay, open competition. We all thought Michael Vick would be the better quarterback and be the starter, but it seemed, it all seems from what we're seeing, and I'm sure we'll get more of that information today as we have people at that Jets camp, and we've already heard it's Geno Smith is the starting quarterback and Michael Vick the backup, which if I was bringing in Michael Vick and I had a young quarterback coming off a rough rookie season, I get you want him to be your quarterback, but I also think, competition would be good. And if Michael Vick's the better quarterback, I would have no problem playing him because this is a team that I know you want to build, but you have I think, a really, really good defense right now, and that's a Ryan trait, whether it's Rob Rex or his father, Buddy, who I played for. And offensively, you get a few more weapons on offense. You get Chris Johnson, while it's not the Chris Johnson of old. You talk about his 20-plus yard rushes, not back in 2009 he had 22. 2013 he had 5, so he's had been nicked a little bit. He's not rushing the way he has been. Occasionally he blames that line in front of him. Never a big fan of that. So we'll see what you get from him. But I think the team is a pretty good team. And I was surprised, I'm not going to lie, that it wasn't more of an open competition. But they want Geno Smith to be the guy. And maybe this is a fire to burn. Maybe this is so you have someone in case Geno struggles, because he did. But he's a rookie. So, I'm not going to sit there and bang on Geno Smith because of all the turnovers he had. He's a rookie. Remember Peyton Manning, while he did throw 25 touchdowns his rookie year, he threw 28 interceptions. He turned the ball over. Geno Smith turned the ball over. Rookies turn the ball over. Let's see how much you learn, and maybe that's the thing. You're coming into your sophomore season. How much improvement can you have? But it's good to have what you would think is a solid backup behind you, if not someone with the ability to start for more than a few teams around the league if Michael Vick were given the opportunity, though his last couple of seasons haven't been pretty less than stellar.
So there will be training camp coverage today, and we'll be a part of that as we go. Again, Herman Edwards on his way in. You'll hear Adolfo Birch's comments to us yesterday. But up next, Golick, I will tell you why one NFL team could have saved their season last year if they had just listened to me.
Oh, jeez.
That's next. We're Mike and Mike. I got a little trivia question for you here. Jason Stark will do trivia for us a little bit later, but I think you'll like this one. Promise me no cheating. Okay, everybody listening, in this day and age,
you're
trivia,
asking to everyone out there, not me.
Well, everyone, including you.
Well, I'm going to cheat.
But don't cheat, but it's kind of fun. Danny Langsford is the new quarterback coach of the New York Football Giants. And I was reading two very interesting stories involving Eli Manning this morning. One of them, which we'll get to in a couple of minutes, involves the fact that he and his new offensive coordinator do not understand each other, literally, because of their accents. You're going to get a kick out of that. But the new quarterback coach is Danny Langsford. And Danny Langsford is challenging Eli Manning to complete 70% of his passes this year. It's been done very few times, only 7 seasons.
Few, yes.
And then, don't look it up. I see you looking things up. What are you doing? Put the mouse away. Put the mouse away.
We're looking at Eli's completion percentage.
I'm going to tell it to you right now.
All right.
His career completion percentage is 58%. The highest he ever had in a season was 62.5.
Okay. And that was my early criticism of him when he got in the league.
Well, I think it's been everyone's, generally speaking, tends to throw the ball high. You're right. You were the first person to see that. Mel Kiper had nothing on you on that one. But anyway, the point is this.
Okay.
So they have challenged him to complete 70% of his passes. Only 7 seasons in history has a quarterback completed 70% of his passes. Only 2 active quarterbacks have ever completed 70% of their passes in a season. Can you name them? I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to think about it. We'll talk about a few other things, and then we'll come back and we'll see if you have the answer. Now, don't start looking this up, because you could look it up and it'll take you 2 seconds, but just think about it. Which 2 active?
I know one for sure.
Well, don't say it. People are thinking about it.
That's why I said I know one for sure. I didn't blurt out the name.
I hate how you play these games.
Why do you hate
You take all the fun out of everything.
How do I take the fun out of that?
You suck the life out of things.
How did I do that? You know what? Then ask it a better way.
I thought that was a fine ask. Anyway, the point of it is only 2 quarterbacks who are active have ever completed 70% of their passes in a season. Can you name them? I've got the answer coming up for you in a moment.
Okay.
Meanwhile, Bruce Allen, who was the general manager in Washington, now says on WXGI Radio in Richmond, Virginia,
made a mistake.
Having Robert Griffin III start the opener last season was a mistake. Now, don't give me your little voice over there, because I remember last year, two people sitting on the set yelling and screaming at each other, one of them saying, this guy is not ready to play. If he's not ready to play in preseason games, they shouldn't be putting him out there. Part of the reason he's out there is because of this ridiculous Adidas campaign, this comeback thing that they built around him coming back for the day, which is a terrible idea for him and Derrick Rose and everybody else, and that Robert Griffin III should absolutely not have been out there to start last season, and someone was telling me I was nuts.
No, you were nuts.
Okay, well, now tell Bruce Allen that, the general manager, who said it was, quote, almost a little disrespectful to the game of football for RG3 to open the season last year. Quote, it's impossible to ask a player to perform well during the regular season if you haven't practiced. Last year at this time, he's still rehabbing his knee. He's not allowed to practice. He's not allowed to work in team drills at all because he's still rehabilitating himself. We put him really on the spot by trying to do that.
Listen, I don't take back anything I said because of the information we were given last year. The information we were given last year was that they were holding him out of things. That not that he wasn't physically ready to do them, that they held him out. And my point was, people have been held out of preseason before and still played when the regular season started. That's what I was based on. If you're giving me all the information saying he wasn't doing anything because he wasn't physically ready, I'd have given you a different answer. But they didn't give us that information. And I understand them not giving us that information. I get it. But if you told me any player, we're just a precautionary holdout, he could practice, but we're holding him out because we just want him to heal up even more, I'd say still go ahead and play at the beginning of the season. But they were saying he couldn't do it. Information we didn't have. I don't change my opinion at all.
No one will ever convince me that I'm wrong, or I was wrong at the time when I said that part of the reason that everyone was so hell-bent on having him on the field week one was that marketing campaign, was the whole all-in for week one and that whole thing, and that was the worst idea in the world. And these comebacks, all of you athletes out there, if you ever get hurt, do not I understand that these guys are paying you a fortune, and they need to find some way to get their money's worth out of you if you're not playing. Like Derrick Rose, who has not played in 2 years, and he's got a $100 million contract or whatever it is with Adidas, and they got to find some way to get bang for their buck. So they build this whole campaign around your return. Don't let them rush you back. That's what happened to RG3. I don't think it's what happened with Derrick Rose, but it's definitely what happened with RG3, and that was a huge mistake for him and for the team.
I disagree with you on that.
As I've said, no one will ever convince me I'm wrong.
Well, no, but you are wrong. I mean, listen, to sit there and say that's not hanging there, I understand. But any player wants to come back. Any player with a salt is trying to get back even sooner than they possibly are supposed to be back. That, to me, is the thing. That, to me, is another situation where team doctors, coaches, GMs have to hold the player back and say, we're not playing you. And Washington didn't do that. I'm not putting that on the commercials. I'm putting that on the player wants to play, and the team went along with it. But any player would want to come back. I don't whether they have a $100 million deal or they're not selling any product at all. If RG3 wasn't selling any product at all, as an athlete, you're trying to get back. And he would have wanted to be on the field in week one.
We're Mike and Mike. We're brought to you by Quicken Loans engineered to amaze. While you think about the answer to my trivia question, I just want to read you a little funny note here. So I was reading a story about Eli Manning and his new offensive coordinator, Ben McAdoo, who is from Homer City, Pennsylvania, which is about 50 miles outside of Pittsburgh. And according to this story I'm reading here, what paper is this in? This is in the the New York Post. He sounds like it. And we all know, anyone who's ever been to Pittsburgh or Western Pennsylvania, there's a particular accent that is there. Yes. If you've heard Mike Ditka talk, if you've heard Dave Wanstedt talk, people who have real heavy Pittsburgh accents. And apparently, you put that together with Eli Manning's New Orleans drawl, right? They don't understand each other. And it's a hilarious story.
That is.
Eli Manning said yesterday, we're getting better. We're on the same page. We had a few mishaps, a couple of words with a Pennsylvania accent. We don't say words the same way. So, for example, some plays that they call contains the word wool.
Wool.
But the way McAdoo says it, Manning thought he was saying roll. So here's a direct quote from Eli. I had to figure out what he was saying. He says it his way. I adjust to him. He's going to say it that way. I just have to know what he's talking about. So now I know that roll means wool. So they don't
roll means wool.
They're not
saying
understanding the language they are speaking.
I love how he says that roll means wool. There's no roll in it. It's all wool. It's just how
wool.
he says it.
But if he says roll, it means roll. When he says wool, he means wool. That's how I'm interpreting what they're saying. Meanwhile, one way or another, I gave a couple minutes to think about it. Who's got the answer? The new quarterback coach for the New York Giants is named Danny Langsford, and Danny Langsdorf. Pardon me, Danny Langsdorf, not Langsford. And he has challenged Eli to complete 70% of his passes. Now, in the history of the NFL, the only quarterbacks pardon me, ever to complete 70% of their passes include Ken Anderson, who did it in 1982, Sammy Baugh, who did it in 1945, Steve Young, who did it in 94, Joe Montana in 89, and then two guys who are still active. Can you name the two active quarterbacks to complete 70% of their passes in a season?
The one I thought of when I said I thought of one immediately was Drew Brees.
Drew Brees actually has done it twice.
He's
That's
done
correct.
It
in 2011 and 2009. And in fact, his 2011 season, 71.2% is the highest percentage in NFL history.
He's been unreal. There have been 8 5,000-yard seasons. He has 4 of them.
Right.
I mean, he's just been incredible.
There's one more active quarterback.
I think that's going to be the easy one. I don't think it's going to be Peyton. I don't think it's going to be Brady. I don't. It
is by no means an obvious one.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to get this one.
I don't think you are either. I don't think anyone who didn't look it up is going to get it. The answer,
and I did not look it up,
is Alex Smith. Alex Smith in
I thought of him.
In 2012, playing for the 49ers, he completed 70.2% of his passes. Yep. So the only quarterbacks ever to do it: Breeze twice. Ken Anderson, Sammy Baugh, Steve Young, Joe Montana, Alex Smith. I'm taking the under on Eli Manning. All right, coming up next, if you missed our conversation with Adolfo Birch yesterday, it certainly was what everyone was talking about throughout the football world, largely because of the way he answered the questions. If you didn't hear it, you will next, and then you'll get Herman Edwards' response in studio right after that, after a word from La Quinta. Mike, ask any big leaguer who's ever faced a 90-mile-an-hour fastball what baseball's all about. He'll tell you it's all about being ready, just like business travelers who take being ready to the next level with La Quinta Inns and Suites.
Just look at LQ.com, and on the day of your arrival, La Quinta will send a ready-for-you alert the second your room is ready. The ready-for-you alert only at LQ.com. La Quinta is ready for you, so you'll be ready for business. We're back after this. I'm Mike and Mike.
Life is full.
So I was just saying to Herman Edwards is here. He'll be in our studio coming up off the top of the hour in 15 minutes. But I was watching yesterday the beginning of NFL Live. And Herman, as our friend Frank Caliendo points out when he does his imitation of Herman has like 3 or 4 different personalities. There were like 3 or 4 Hermans. You know, there's the incredibly jovial one. There's the incredibly serious one. There's just a bunch of different personalities that Herman has, which is one of the things we love about him. And the second the camera came up, they have the open to NFL Live. And the second the camera comes up, you got Wendy Nix, you got Jerome Bettis, you got her. I saw the look on Herman's face. I said, okay, it's the serious Herman
serious
today.
Herman.
We had some very serious Herman yesterday, and I'm hoping that we will have the serious Herman with us here in about 15 minutes this morning reacting to this. Adolfo Birch, NFL senior VP, yesterday was our guest on Mike and Mike late in the program.
And he's been on with us many times before. We're talking about discipline and things on the field. He's always been very good with his time with us.
And he was on to discuss the league's thinking in the 2-game suspension that it handed down to Ray Rice, a suspension that pretty much everyone we have heard from, including ourselves, believes was a very light punishment for Rice in light of the events. So we talked with him, and where we will pick up the conversation, he had just said that the commissioner sought the counsel of a number of people before making his ultimate decision of 2 games. And Golick's question picks it up from there.
Were you one of the people that he talked to about this?
Yes.
And you felt 2 games was justified?
Well, I believe that the discipline the NFL took, I think if you look at it, the discipline that was taken by the NFL is the only discipline that occurred with respect to Mr. Rice in this case. And I think that were he not an NFL player, I don't know that he would have received any punishment from any other source. And so, on balance, when we reviewed all the materials, the information, listened to the persons that we listened to, took the input of the Players Association, When we looked on balance at all of that, we believe that the discipline that we issued is appropriate. I mean, it is, multiple games and hundreds of thousands of dollars. I think that it's fair to say that doesn't reflect that you condone the behavior. I think we can put that to rest.
Well, I think that there are many who would respectfully disagree on this, Adolfo. Before we get to that, there's one more informational point that we must get to, and that is, has the National Football League and has the commissioner, does he have information that others do not? I guess most specifically, has he seen further video footage of anything that happened in that elevator that the general public has not seen?
Well, listen, I understand everybody's desire to know the sort of details of what was reviewed, who we talked to, et cetera. But I think you have to understand that there is a certain level of privacy that should be accorded both to the process and to the persons involved. And I think it is important for us to respect that in this case as well.
I understand that, and that's fair. But I guess one specific question would be, did he see any other video? There are many who have speculated that there are things on that video that are extremely disturbing. We've not seen it. Has the commissioner seen it?
Again, as I said, what we look at, who we talk to, those things I think should be afforded a level of privacy that we think is appropriate.
Adolfo Birch is with the Senior VP of Labor Policy for the NFL. The same could be said of Ben Roethlisberger. There was no further discipline. He received a 6-game suspension, which was subsequently lowered to 4 on the basis of, for lack of a better way of putting it, good behavior. Why was this markedly less than Roethlisberger?
Well, I think, the situations were very different. We explained at the time of Ben's suspension, the bases behind that, just as we have explained in this instance, the basis behind Mr. Rice's suspension. Again, I don't think it is particularly appropriate to sort of weigh each case against itself on all its facts. But there were reasons with Roethlisberger that we felt a more lengthy suspension was appropriate, and we laid those out at the time that we made that decision.
Can you tell us what other cases you looked at, what other comparisons were made? If the use of PEDs and the punishments there are collectively bargained, that's not a good comparison. I understand that. What was a good comparison?
Well, look, we have had domestic issues in the past. We've had those misconduct in that area in the past. We've had cases that we look at that have similar dispositions, meaning how the court has handled them. There are a variety of things we can review that give us some perspective on what has been done, which allows us to determine what should be done. And there are a number of things that we could look at historically that would help us in that respect.
Adolfo, I've got to be honest with you. We are hearing from thousands of people this morning who are saying the National Football League had an opportunity to send a message that domestic violence will not be tolerated in our league and failed to do so in the Ray Rice case. What is the league's reaction?
Well, listen, I think if you're any player and you believe that based on this decision that it's okay to go out and commit that type of conduct, I think that's something that I would suggest to you that no player is going to go out and do that. So in terms of sending a message about what the league stands for, we've done that.
So that was Adolfo Birch with us yesterday live. It was about 9:30 Eastern that we had the conversation. He's the NFL Senior VP of Labor Policy. The reaction, again, that's pretty much the only comment I believe the league has had. Yeah. And so as a consequence of that, it was just about everywhere, and I didn't see anyone who was particularly impressed.
No, I did not either, and Herm Edwards is going to join us to talk about it. I will note that Ray Rice is at camp. I mean, he's suspended for the first 2 games, but he can go through camp, and he got a warm reception. His face was shown a couple of times on the big screen, and he got a warm reception. And we're certainly not here to tell you not give him that. Fans like Ray Rice. They want to give him a warm reception. This is only about the penalty that we and many others thought was too light. I mean, how you deal with Ray Rice, cheering him and welcoming him back to the team. Listen, I don't think anybody has a problem with that at all. You deal with that how you want to deal with it. This is just about the 2 games we thought was way too light for the situation.
It is interesting that the first time you've seen him since February, you're giving him a standing ovation.
Yep.
Perhaps that's a different conversation. We continue with Herm Edwards in our studio next.
Attention homeowners. I'm Jay Farner, president of Quicken Loans. We've told you about HARP in the past. there are so many more of you who could be saving hundreds of dollars every month on your mortgage. It's simple and easy. And for 4 years in a row now, J.D. Power has ranked Quicken Loans highest in the nation in customer satisfaction for primary mortgage origination. To learn more, call 800-QUICKEN.
Visit jdpower.com for award information. Important terms and conditions apply. Calls for cost information. Equal housing lender. Licensed law 50 states. NMLS number 3030.
All right, everybody. Time to recap the score for the...
Whoa. Wake up there, little buddy.
I'm sorry. Did I doze off again?
Didn't you eat breakfast?
No, I was running late. I didn't have time.
Thought so. That's why I hit Subway and picked up your favorite egg white with turkey on flatbread and a steak, egg white, and cheese for me.
Well, that's really thoughtful, Golick.
Well, that part was thoughtful, but then I got hungry and I ate them both.
Man, that's low.
Sorry.
I'm too tired to forgive you. Mike and Mike back and better than ever on ESPN Radio and on your TV on ESPN2. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests appear on the Subway Fresh Take Hotline unless they appear here in studio. The one and only Herman Edwards is here. And I referenced it earlier. It was actually Frank Caliendo who first made this observation about Herman. Herman, you have an earpiece in, so you go hear this.
I have an earpiece.
So Frank Caliendo was the first one who pointed it out. Herman Edwards has multiple personalities.
Right.
There are multiple Herms, and sometimes you can have them all in one conversation. For example, back in the day when Herman would be talking about Tim Tebow, he could be having a conversation with himself in 3 different voices.
Tim Tebow's a good football player. Good football player. Good football player. Can't play quarterback. Can't play quarterback. No. Can't play quarterback.
And it's so true. That's Herman Edwards. That's Frank Caliendo. This is Herman Edwards. Good morning, Herman.
It's good to be here. You have those personalities when you play corner. You get beat for a touchdown. Oh, I didn't get beat. Yes, you did. No, I didn't.
You're out there having an argument with yourself, huh?
You go back in the huddle and all defensive players look at you. I didn't get beat. Don't even say that.
There is one position that has to have the shortest memory in the world. And
selective memory, as they call it.
That's cornerback. But it is, because we're going to get into a serious topic here in a minute. You do have a memory of somebody who stiffed you, don't you?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I mean, can I really just say, Greeny, where did you, when you went on vacation, where did you golf?
I spent some of the portion of my trip you're referring to was in Northern California.
Northern California. We have Herm on the show all the time. You know he's from there, correct? You know he lives there.
Yes.
You love him, don't you?
I do.
Talk about what a great guy he is.
I do.
You were in Northern Cali for a couple of days. Herm, how'd you guys have a good time when you got together?
All I know is I'm at home and I get a call. I get calls, when people come in town.
Right, sure.
From wherever you're at in Monterey or Carmel, I'll get a call if you're around. They'll say, hey, you know who's over here playing at Pebble Beach? I said, who? They said, Greeny. I said, no, not my Greeny. He said, yeah. I said, really? I said, well, maybe I looked at my phone. I said, I didn't get a text. I didn't get a... What?
How far are you from there?
Oh, 10 minutes.
10 minutes. Wow, that's too far to go, huh, Greeny?
See, this is
to see
where
a friend.
we get into an awkward area, because in all honesty, I didn't want to bother Herman.
I'm not awkward.
Like
you awkward, Herm?
Bothering him.
Bothering me.
Bothering him. Bother you. Come on, it was July 4th. You're like having a good time. I don't know
we
what
were
you're
up
doing.
at... You could have came up. We were having our annual party up there.
Oh,
Mr. Eastwood was up there. We have
Mr. Eastwood?
Yeah. At our place at Tamibo.
I missed out on a chance to be Clint.
Right there. We could have had barbecue, the whole deal, swimming pool, the kids.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah.
You just came in after you played golf.
See what you miss out when you're selfish?
I could have fed you.
Could have hung out with Clint Eastwood?
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you this. When you're hanging out with Clint Eastwood, do you ever, if you're throwing back a few, whatever's going on, do you ever, just talk him into doing some lines, like some of his famous lines?
No, you just kind of observe. What you do is when he's around in big parties, you watch other people that are invited to this, and they're kind of looking, and they're all whispering, that's... And I start laughing.
Are people afraid to go up to him?
Because
he kind of has
that image,
I'd go up to him and say, Clint, you made my day.
Yeah. He's really a good guy. Good guy. Really a good guy.
Do you feel lucky?
Yeah.
Punk. That's what
Would you make that face you just made, too?
Do you feel lucky? Punk.
You know what? I don't want to hear what you could have done, because you could have done all this if you called your friend Herm.
If I'd have known that Clint was going to be there.
Oh, yes, no. It's not so much me. It's who he wants to be through me.
I see Herman all the time. Clint Eastwood, come on. Let's go. You feel lucky? Punk.
I love that face you make.
That's a great... I mean, look, it's Clint Eastwood.
Wouldn't scare my dog.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Make my day.
Oh,
you got to show him some teeth when you do that.
What are you doing? You have a facial tick? I mean, what's going on there?
That's my tough face.
Oh, yeah.
Come on, where's my one shot? Give me a little one shot here. Camera 3. You ready? Here we
go. You got the beard going, too.
Tell me. Yeah, I got the beard. It gives me a little toughness to it. Again. You feel lucky?
Oh, boy. Yeah.
Punk? Is that good?
What is with the flinching that you're doing
well,
there?
And the next thing that comes after that is a pow.
Yeah.
I'm against guns.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, boy.
All right.
gosh,
So,
okay.
see, now the many personalities of Herman. This
Yeah.
is the fun one.
Come out.
Let's get to the serious
Yes.
one. So you heard our conversation with Adolfo Birchoff yesterday, as everybody did, but this is less about that than it is in the bigger picture. Let's just start with the league's reaction in general. A 2-game suspension for Ray Rice. What do you think of the way the league has handled the matter?
Well, personally, I thought they dropped the ball here. And this is bigger than just football. This is a life lesson that we all need to look at and study. When you think about domestic violence in our society, it cannot be tolerated. And you have a platform as a league, as well as an organization, as well as the organization that the player plays for, to do something, to send a strong message. And I thought they failed to do that. And it has nothing to do with Ray Rice. It has something to do with domestic violence of women. It cannot be tolerated, should not be. And I think the punishment really, regardless of the information and how they went through it, I dealt with something similar to this. And basically, a really good player, and it happened during the season. And I know they have to go through the protocol of checking all the facts and going through the details and all that. But I actually just called the commissioner and told him and said, you need to do what you have to do, but I got to do what I got to do for my own sense of value, my moral compass, and for this locker room. And I didn't let the player play for 3 weeks, and the league stepped in the final week and suspended him for another, so he was out a month. And for me, that was the right thing to do, and I didn't need the league's approval because you have the ability to deactivate 8 players every week. And I told the player that. You're coming to work, you're going to work, but you're not playing because this is something that cannot be tolerated. It won't be on my watch. And that's the part of leadership. You know, when you're a leader, you got to make some tough calls. And this one has nothing to do with football. This is bigger than football. This is a life issue.
So, in part, do you have a problem with a team not stepping in? Or I mean, is it okay for a team to say, well, listen, my league, the NFL, is going to handle this, so we are going to abide by what they do?
You can do that. That's you can say, hey, you know what, the league's going to do it, and I'm not going to get involved in it, and that's fine. For me personally, my moral compass said, not happening. I've got a problem with it, and I did something about it. And that was just the way I handled it. I think every club can handle it different. The league's going to handle it their way. I handle it in a way that I wanted to make sure that players on our football team knew that this was not to be tolerated. And battering women is it's something that goes along. It happens in our country every day. And you had a platform to look at it. You can imagine this now. The message they sent the league, regardless if they like it or not. If you're a high school athlete, college athlete, and let's say an incident like this occurs, the first thing you look at is our league and says, hey, 2 games. 2 games. That's what players get. Really? I got 2 daughters, all right? I try to live my life as a man of integrity, where my actions and my life match up, and my words. And I want to make sure my daughters look at their dad and go, he's a gentleman. He does things the right way, so that when it's their turn to get married, they marry a guy that's going to be a gentleman and that understands how to deal with women properly and respect them. And so for me, it's not a hard decision. It was like, hey, I get it. I understand it's football, and you're paid to win games, and you love the player and all, but it's bigger than that. It's really bigger than that, and I just think they failed.
I think the interesting, you brought it up, and I brought it up some yesterday, and a lot of people have, is forgetting, again, it revolves around Ray Rice, but a league which has taken leadership roles in a lot of areas and has no problem with it, saying, we'd like to lead into this new frontier or that new frontier. You said it perfectly. They did have a platform. There are certain things with the CBA where they don't. This drug violation is 4 games, it's 8 games, it's the year, it's suspension. You can appeal all that. Those are kind of set in the CBA. This is one where you kind of had. I still am not sure after the interview yesterday what they used to base it off of. In one breath it was, we look at this, and another, we look at everything individually. So I'm not sure. Either way, though, there's no set number for this. And Greeny, there was a platform there. There was a chance for them to say, you know what, we're not. I know this is a game. We're playing football, but we're not condoning one of our employees from doing this, even though his now wife says it was the only time. It would never happen before. It won't happen again. And they did all the right things to move past this, but still to say, you know what, that's great, and let's hope it never does happen again. But I'm sorry, it happened, and we are going to put our foot down here. They did have the pulpit here to do something.
Mike and Herman Edwards is in our studio, and here's the other problem, is that in matters such as these, there is precedent, both looking backwards and looking forwards. And I think that in both cases, looking at it that way, they failed miserably. If you have collectively bargained a system where the use of, where being testing positive for the wrong supplement, or if you're Robert Mathis and you say that you were using a male fertility drug because you and your wife couldn't get pregnant, or whatever, let's even say you use a performance-enhancing drug. It has been collectively bargained. It has been agreed that that's a 4-game suspension. So because you have free reign, and we asked Adolfo Birch, and that was one of the direct answers that we got yesterday, is there was no ceiling that Roger Goodell was dealing with yesterday. What you have made as a statement here is that this punishment is half of that. That the punishment for a case of domestic violence is half of the case of using the wrong supplement. That is now out there. Whether that's what was in your mind or not is irrelevant. That's the only way to look at it from the outside. And then further, you have also now set the bar going forward at 2 games. So now Greg Hardy's going to come up. Now, maybe there will be circumstances involved in this particular case that are totally different.
Because remember, he was found guilty of assault there. So
fair.
It could be different.
Fair enough. Yes. But either way, the bar, generally speaking, has been set at 2 games. And that was why I kept asking Adolfo Birch yesterday, what did the commissioner see? What does he know that the rest of us don't know? And there did not seem to be an answer. And in the absence of one, I think, Herman, almost everyone shares your opinion that the league had an opportunity here and dropped the ball.
Well, the league and then the club. Because you can obviously, as the club, say, okay, well, the league's going to, fine him this amount of money, and they're going to take him off the field.
Herman, let's be honest real quick. I hate to interrupt. This club has more than a few issues with some players. They've had a few arrests this year already, so I think there's already a lot of people looking at the club, quite honestly, and saying, wow.
And this is something where the head coach can just step in and say, you know what, hey, look, I'm going to straighten it. I'm going to straighten it up right now, and you're not playing. And you deem how many games you want to deactivate the guy. And for me, it was 3. And the league got him for 1. It was a month of deactivation. And this was one where the guy really didn't even hit the woman, but, poured a drink on her and in a public place. And it was embarrassing to everybody. And I said, that's it. I'm not going to be tolerated here.
Mike Herman Edwards in our studio with his Subway Fresh Take. Wake up to a Subway steak, egg white, and cheese made the way you say on toasty flatbread. Subway, eat fresh. We'll keep Herman here. We'll do a moment here for Nature Box, and then we can turn our attention, Herman, to other matters all over the National Football League with camps opening up. Sports Center is in a bunch of places today, including 4 letters near and dear to your heart and mine.
Very good.
So we'll get into all that and more after this word from Nature Box, where we ask the question, what is in Golick's Nature Box today? And lately it seems to be the answer is apple pie oat clusters.
Yeah, no, there are a lot of different ones, but I've kind of hanging on this one right now, the apple pie oat clusters, apple pie and crunchy oatmeal cookies. That's the taste of them that they have. Nature Box, but there's so many great flavors. It's the online store for those who love snacking but care about what you eat. There's over 100 sweet, spicy, and savory snacks that no way you're going to find in stores. And, which I have done, you can eat a whole bag of these and not feel like you got to hit the gym. Hit naturebox.com right now, /Mike. Select your snack choice to drop them into your Nature Box. The entire family is going to love them, and they will ship them to you absolutely free. Naturebox.com /Mike. Enter the promo code Mike, and now you're going to get half off your first Nature Box. So, the deal, 50% off your first Nature Box. Shipping is always free. And here's where you go. Naturebox.com /Mike.
Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guest on the Subway Fresh Take Hotline, Herman Edwards, is in our studio. Later this hour, you'll hear from Jimbo Fisher, the head football coach at Florida State. the defending national champ. So we'll get his thoughts on their summer and Jameis Winston and everything else. But Herman is here right now. Herman, we were talking a moment ago about Eli Manning, or we were talking about a half hour ago about Eli Manning. He has a new offensive coordinator, new offensive system. His quarterback's coach has challenged him to complete 70% of his passes. It's probably unrealistic, but certainly the message is clear. We want him to be more accurate. We want him to be more careful with the football. He was turning it over at an alarming rate last year. And Eli Manning is an interesting bird. He's one of those, is it the little girl with the curl? When she's good, she's very, very good. And when she's bad, she's very, very bad. What are your thoughts on this? Some are calling this a very important season for Eli Manning in the big picture of his career.
Well, it is in this sense. Eli Manning's not throwing 27 interceptions again. That's a fact. I think what hurt Eli is a couple things. First of all, his ability to be protected in the pocket, their inability to run the football, along with injuries at the wideout position. And that became kind of catastrophic for the Giants because it put him in a place where Eli's not very comfortable. He had to drop back and throw the football. The play-action pass was no longer evident in their arsenal because of how they had to play. Now, they obviously got off to a pretty good start and then kind of faded a little bit and then came back. But when you look at the Giants, they did a lot of things on the offseason, acquired a lot of players in free agency, and that's normally not the Giants' MO. They don't do that. But I think they understand they have a team right now they feel that has a chance to compete in this division. I would think much improvement out of New York Giants this year. Will they compete? Yeah, I think Philly's probably the favorite to win this division. But I think the Giants, the history of the Giants say that they'll be very competitive in this division.
In an open quarterback competition, now Brian Hoyer's the starter. I use Cleveland as the example, but this is more.
That's a whole different story. Don't get me started on them Cleveland Browns.
Well, I will then, but
yeah.
Let me start first with the general question that Coach Pettin said. By before the third preseason game, he will have a starter. Generally, if you have a quarterback competition, is that the time you want to name that guy?
Yeah, he said it right. It's kind of funny, this whole, and I'm gonna get on my soapbox right now. And I'm not defending it or anything else, or the player, but I will say this about Johnny Manziel. It's kind of ironic because we've sat here the last 2 months and we've questioned Johnny Manziel's off-field antics. And the Cleveland Browns now have called it to question. And I sit here and I laugh because I say, let me get this right. Here's a guy in high school that was a really good player, never failed in high school, never failed in college, and had the ability to go from the football field to have a social life. And we watched it all unfold. We watched it. We've seen this. This is the history of this guy. And so now the Cleveland Browns, they look at this guy and they go, we're going to draft him. And they sell all the jerseys out and they sell tickets. It reminds me of this. I told this story. Got 2 little girls, Gabrielle and Vivian. We go to Disney World 3 years ago, first time. And we go into the park and there's the Tower of Terror ride. And it's sitting up there. And you hear all these kids screaming. Now they're little now. They're like 7 and 6. And they say, Daddy, look at that ride. I said, girls, you don't want to ride that ride. That's the Tower of Terror. You don't want to go there. The second day, Daddy, we really want to go on that ride. I said, you don't want to go on that ride. We do. I said, okay. So we have the guy takes them, and we get to the door, and they look at me and say, Daddy, you going? I said, no, I don't ride that ride. You go with the guy. And the guy, and they step in, the door's closed. Daddy, we don't want to go. It's too late. Door closed. Boom, they go down. When we get to the bottom, I look at my 2 little daughters, and they're like this. They're shaking. And I said, I told you. That's the ride. That's Johnny Manziel, Cleveland Browns. You drafted him. You knew this guy socially was the Tower of Terror, okay? And now all of a sudden you give him a Cleveland Brown helmet and a jersey and you say, oh, we're surprised at how he acts. Really? How can you be surprised? You better figure out how to get this guy in the playbook so he can learn it, because by week 4 after the bye, he's probably going to be the starter.
You think so?
Oh, they play Pittsburgh, they play the Saints, and they play Baltimore, and then they got to bye. Good luck. Good luck. Because if they're losing, Johnny Manziel, he better be ready to play. Period.
Now, I love the story and I love the analogy. Mike and Herman Edwards. Let me give you the other side of that.
Greeny wouldn't go on that ride either.
I don't go on that ride. My kids go on it. The guide takes them. With it. Actually, one year Golick took them.
I did. I took them.
Often Liam takes them. I don't go on the ride either.
You're like me.
But they like it. The kids, but you're right. The first time they were scared to death.
Yes.
But now they've done it 20 times and they like it.
Yeah.
And they've decided it's fun. Yeah. And Johnny Manziel will be fun. Yeah. All of this will be fun. The Justin Bieber selfies will be fun if he's throwing touchdowns. But let me present this to you.
Yeah.
Joe Thomas, who is their 7-time Pro Bowl offensive tackle, compares Brian Hoyer to Tom Brady.
Okay.
In comments that I'm reading this morning, he said, Hoyer was Brady's backup for a while in New England, and he says that's the respect that he commands, that's the swagger that he has, that's the way he leads our huddle, and we love him, and blah, blah, blah. I got just kind of a funny feeling about Brian Hoyer, Herman, and Golick has had it for a while, and I'm starting to come around to your way of thinking. I think that I'm just going to put this out there.
Yeah.
I think the Browns are going to be pretty good, and I think Hoyer is going to be really good.
You know what? I hope so. I really do. And you make a great point. Joe Thomas, along with Alex Mack. And the coaches are all worried about this and that. You know what? If I'm the head coach, I'm telling Johnny Manziel this. First of all, don't let the playbook defeat you. Don't let the playbook defeat you.
Amen.
Right? Don't let that happen to you, okay? And then second of all, if you're going to play in this league, those two guys on our football team, when you walk in that huddle, they got to trust you. Joe Thomas and Alex Mack. Those are the veteran guys. Those are two of the best offensive linemen in pro football. And you got to gain their respect. When they can trust you and say, we believe this guy. We believe that this guy is all about football now. Then that's when you become the starter on this football team.
Whenever there's a first-round quarterback who doesn't start, and I don't think Manziel will start, I think Hoyer will, and I think Hoyer can be pretty good. But from a head coach and an organizational standpoint, you're not drafting a first-round quarterback to sit around unless the guy who's starting is playing really well.
Yes.
So start to go through the scenarios. You mentioned the 4 games before the bye. What if, let me throw this one out, what if maybe they're not winning, but Hoyer is playing well? You look at Hoyer and you say, you know what? That's a pretty darn good quarterback, and there are other issues we have, so maybe we're 2-2 or 1-3 or not where we want to be. I'm with Greeny, though. I think they can be pretty good. But just that scenario. So from an organizational standpoint, what do you do in a situation like that in general?
Well, first of all, you make a point, is the quarterback playing well and you're still struggling? Then obviously you have to go in different areas. You're going to have to make some changes, whether how you go about playing football, how you kind of massage the deficiencies you have, or whether it be on offense or defense. But one thing I do know, and I ran into this problem with the Jets, and Greeny will know.
I remember it well.
Okay, and here we go. I mean, we get to the playoffs our first year, and the second year, oh, boy, we got a house fire going on, and we weren't coaching very good, and we weren't playing very good, and all that stuff, and I had to call Vinny in. I said, Vinny, guess what? He looked at me, he says, I got a feeling. I said, yeah. I said, I got to make a change. I said, because I can change the left guard. I can change the right corner. Nobody cares. Nobody's going to care. I said, but I got to change quarterback. So I changed quarterback.
And your quarterback at that point was not playing horribly?
Well, he was kind of playing okay, but he wasn't playing very well either.
Okay.
But at the end, I said, I got to get something going here. And in comes number 10.
He went to a young man named Chad.
Number 10. And, did we win division that year?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
9-7, destroyed Green Bay in the final week of the season.
And then, so we made a change.
Right.
And so that's kind of what happens. And this is what Johnny Manziel brings, a spark. He's different than Hoyer. He's a whole different guy. He's going to make the unannounced play. Now, he's going to get off script. He sees ghosts in the pocket. He's the wild factor.
As a coach, I mean, I got to believe coaches love to know where their quarterback's going to be and what their quarterbacks are looking at.
Yeah, they said the same thing about Fran Tarkenton. Where are you going to be, Fran? I don't know. I'm just running around making plays. But now, I don't know if he can do that or not. I mean, but here again, this is what he brings to the table. All right? I mean, he gets everyone excited of how he plays. And the guy's been successful his whole career doing this. In high school, college, and I'm not saying that transfers to pro football. 75% of how he played in college was outside the pocket. That's where he had a lot of his success. He's going to have to learn how to play in the pocket. But with that being said, they have to orchestrate an offense if he becomes a player for them a little bit outside the pocket so he can use his skill set.
Mike, Herman Edwards is here, and he will be here tomorrow morning, and you'll see him all day long on TV.
Love the Tower Terror story.
Thank you, Herman.
Thank you, man. Always great to see you guys.
I'm coming up next year.
Please, come.
I'm coming to the house.
Come.
We'll have dinner with Clint.
We'll try. If not, we'll have dinner with my wife. That's even more important.
I would enjoy that even more.
Don't answer the phone. He doesn't deserve you to answer the phone.
You feel lucky?
Oh, God.
Wow.
Mike and your reaction on Twitter through the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. Celebrate summer with a smile. Go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN for exclusive offers on flowers and gifts starting at $29.99. Jimbo Fisher, next. Mike and Mike.
It does. It's really starting to sink in because you stay in it so much. Sometimes right after those games, you're back in recruiting. You're in the spring ball. It doesn't resonate with you at times, and it's starting to now. But now we can't worry about it. We got to go to the next year.
I'm still jealous. The year before when my boys were playing for Notre Dame and we had that difficult game against Alabama in the title game. But that's how some of you coaches think. You win the national championship, and the next day you're like, oh, my God, I'm behind on everything else now. All the other schools got a recruiting jump on us.
Exactly. We're a little paranoid on things, and that in this business, it's so competitive. As soon as you wait, I say you're either getting better or you're getting worse, and you got to stay on top of things. And this process now is never ending. It's 365 days a year.
Please tell me you found some time to smell the roses. This is sort of a little pet issue of mine.
Yeah.
Golic just alluded to it. Guys, you work your whole life to achieve that moment, and you wake up the next morning and your first thought is, how do I get started on the next one? Well, what's the purpose of the next one if you can't enjoy the first one?
You know something, there is a point to that, and I think we did later this summer, and I think as spring got on, and I think we did something in the off season. Because everybody said, okay, what did you do poorly? How are you going to improve? We all have mistakes. But what we did, and it was a little different, we went back and looked at all the things we did well. And we want to repeat them. Because that's what athletics is about, repeating performance. We looked at the things we did bad. We said, well, you're going to spend extra time on them. We're not. We may emphasize that time. But what we're saying is, look at the things we did well. Because if you work on all the things you did poorly, you may not do the things you did well good again. And so we kind of reversed that role, and I think allowing that, to our kids, at least let them enjoy that a minute because they reminded themselves of all the good habits they had so they could be successful.
So let them enjoy that for a minute, but was there a point where, whether it was the off season in the winter when they were working out or in spring, where it was like, okay, we don't want you guys feeling too good about yourselves here, so now we're going to give you a little reality check?
No, there's no doubt. I mean, we had to push it in spring, and really I thought the second third of spring, I was very pleased with how we performed. And I thought the first half, because when we come back, we went straight into school. They never got to decompress and really enjoy that. And I think they started doing that. And then I think about the last 2/3 of spring practice, we got hungry for the next year. And that's what when you said defending national champions, that's something we've taken that word out. Because I said, when you defend something, that means they can take it from you. They can't take that championship from us. We would say reigning, whatever, but what we're doing, we're hunting another championship. We're not going to defend our championship. We're going to hunt another one.
Mike Jimbo Fisher's with us, the coach of Florida State, the coach of the reigning national champion. How does Jameis Winston get better? Heisman Trophy, all the promise in the world, obviously. Where does he get better on the field?
I think it's a lot of things that people may not even see. And you know this has been a player, Mike. Sometimes your numbers may not always be as good, but you can be a better player. You can be a better leader. You can influence your team off the field. You can influence them on the field, how you go to class. But then, is it your footwork? Is it your decision-making? Is it allowing your team to put them in better positions to win and managing the game? The game, as soon as you think the game's about numbers or you're bigger than it is, it'll bite you. And I think just it's not pressure to perform greater. I think it's being relaxed and taking what the game gives you. And understanding that you have to just continue to make good decisions.
And knowing what Jameis has done and knowing his future, it's so easy for us to speculate he's going to go in the draft next year. Then you hear, he wants to play baseball, so it might be 2 years. How much do you talk with him about his future?
We had that talk when we first came in. And believe it or not, he is a true student athlete. He is a great student. Education is extremely important to this young man. I think that's the one thing about him that people do not understand. His greatest attribute, in my opinion, is intelligence. He's extremely intelligent in the classroom, on the field, and studies the game and studies school. All those things are very important to him. And I think he wants a college education. That's very important to him and his family before he walks out of here.
Mike Jimbo Fisher is with us. One other quickly, you had the comments a week or so ago in which you said that now in a new world where all of you are competing for the same playoff, that you feel all the conferences should play by the same rules and thus have a conference championship. We brought that up with a couple of different people from the Big 12 last week, and their counter to you was, well, we play every team. We play a ninth game during the regular season. We play every team in our conference. They don't do that in the SEC, the ACC, and some others. Their ninth game is their conference championship game. In your view, is that an acceptable answer, or do you still believe there needs to be uniformity?
Well, see, here's the context of the question I was asked. I was asked, do we have 4 teams? Do we need 8 teams? I said, wait a minute. We already have 3 rounds of playoffs. The conference championship is a playoff game, because if you lose it, you're out of the national championship hunt. And I said, I think everybody, including that's Notre Dame too. It's not. I didn't say the Big 12. I think they do truly have a conference champion. There's no doubt. Probably more so than any league. I don't doubt that. But my whole thing was this: it's one less game.
Right.
It's one less time you could lose or have an injury or it's attrition that goes with the amount of games you play. And I said, what if the NFL said, you guys get to play 16 games, but you get to play 15? You know what I'm saying? It's the same number of games. And it wasn't a Big 12 question. It was a college football question.
But the Big 12 does only have 10 teams. Are you saying they should still try and have it?
I think the same number of games. Because I go back to this. When I was at LSU in 2001, Tennessee had beaten us in a regular season game. We replayed them. They were going on to play Miami in the national championship game and had a tremendous team. We beat them. Kansas State was defeated one time when they were in, you have those games. You can get Florida. That's how Florida got back to win their championship when they played Florida State. Had beaten them in the last game of the season. You know what I mean? And other conference champions had lost. I said, but it's still, you're playing one less game. That was my whole point. It's not Big 12 can do what they want. They do have the true champion. I agree with them. 100%. They have a tremendous conference. My thing was a college football question because they were talking about going to 8 playoff teams. Well, I mean, I said, you already do with a conference championship. And when you have one less game, I think it's an advantage.
Just one less opportunity to get knocked off. Coach, obviously I know there's an exciting time for you as you get things started again for a new season. Thank you very much for coming by. It's great to see you.
It's an honor to be with you guys.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
It's Jimbo Fisher, head coach of Florida State, the reigning national champions, who was good enough to come by. Really,
don't say defended.
Got all mixed up yesterday. Yeah. He came in after the show.
Nice,
very nice of him to do it. Now, our friends at Carbonite ask us to make a point and back it up with a stat. But boy, can we do that when we make the point that Florida State's defense of its national championship, however you want to call it, is going to be tough. You can get Carbonite to back up the important files on your business and personal computers automatically. Go to Carbonite.com today. Use the offer code Mike for a special offer. Listen to this schedule. They open August 30th in a neutral site game against Oklahoma State. But I don't know how neutral this is because it's at Dallas.
Yeah, it's at Dallas, right.
So you're certainly going to have a lot of Oklahoma State fans that are there at Dallas. They got to play Clemson. They got to play Notre Dame October 18th. At Louisville, October 30th, at Miami, November 15th, and November 29th, they're playing Florida. So you're talking about, obviously, within the ACC, it's tough. They've got Notre Dame scheduled in this year. They've got their game against Florida annually, the Oklahoma State opener. If they're going to win another national championship, they're going to earn it.
Yeah, first year of the new playoff system as well. So now you just need to be in the top 4 instead of the top 2 under the BCS system. And they'll certainly start off high, and they start off with a tough game as Greeny mentioned. We'll see. You have Jameis Winston, who there is question, as we chatted about, how long will he be back? He loves playing baseball, and if he plays baseball again next year, that means he won't be getting ready for the draft, so they could potentially have him for 2 more years. Not many people think that will happen, so they want to try and make hay again right now. Always incredible athletes on that team. He's got a lot of that old line coming back to protect Winston as well, so always a good team. The one experience I had with that team, it was 2011. Notre Dame played them in the Champ Sports Bowl, had an early lead in that game. Florida State ended up winning 18-14 in that one. That was a young defensive line. They had good one. Mike played center in that game, so it was a nice battle in there, but always good athletes. You always see a lot of their athletes go in the draft every year, and here they are trying to, as he won't say it, defend their national championship.
For the first time in a long time, news of the weird on the way after a word from La Quinta. Mike, ask any big leaguer who's ever faced a 90-mile-an-hour fastball what baseball's all about. He'll tell you it's all about being ready, just like business travelers who take being ready to the next level with La Quinta Inns and Suites.
Just look at LQ.com, and on the day of your arrival, La Quinta will send a ready-for-you alert the second your room is ready. The ready-for-you alert only at LQ.com. La Quinta is ready for you, so you'll be ready for business. News of the weird coming up on Mike and Mike.
The best. Mike and Mike, our Sports Center brought to you by Western and Southern. Retirement can be overwhelming, but there's no need to wade through the conversation on your own. Western and Southern will translate financial jargon to give you solutions. Talk to a financial translator today. Visit westernsouthern.com/Mike. We haven't done this in a long time.
It's time for News of the Weird. With Mike and Mike.
So this is a little weird and a little offbeat, and I'm going to need your help explaining some of this to me.
All right.
Because this is kind of out of my league. All right.
Okay.
Let's set the scene. We're at England's Bristol Old Vic.
Okay.
Okay.
Isn't that the Shakespeare Theater? I think that's the Shakespeare Theater.
Where was going on was a classical music concert.
Oh, the Old Vic. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, it's not the new
I'm
Vic.
thinking of the new Vic.
It's not the new. This is the old
England's
Vic.
Michael Vick.
So we're at a classical music concert at England's Bristol Old Vic.
Bristol Old Vic.
Where it was a performance by some dude named Handel.
It was not a performance by a dude named Handel.
Well, it was. He was involved in it somehow.
I think it was a performance of a dude named Handel's work.
That's what
I'm
I
just
meant.
guessing.
That's what I mean.
I mean, Handel wasn't there.
Well, I understand that. He's probably been dead a year or two.
It's not like his Twitter handle. Like Handel.
What is his handle? At Handel?
Yeah, it's Handel's Messiah. You've heard of. I guarantee you've heard of it.
It was. There was a concert, a classic. That's where I need the help. Classical music concert.
It's Handel. Is the composer.
Is it Handel or Handel?
I think it's Handel.
It's Handel.
Yeah, he's a composer.
So it's his
You've
music.
heard of. You don't know it, but you've heard of him.
So it's his music.
Yes.
But these are hoity-toity affairs, correct?
Not necessarily.
So a classical music concert is like any kind of rock concert going on.
No, it's
out there.
not. But it doesn't have. It is decreasingly hoity-toity.
But it's a little more reserved, would you say?
Oh, much more reserved.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, there was a
people aren't usually like surfing the crowd or anything like that when they're performing Handel.
Have you read
There's
this
no
story?
mosh pit. No. No, I have not. I swear to you, I have not.
Okay.
Is that where you're about to go with this?
Hold on. There was somebody there named David Glowacki. I hope I'm pronouncing that.
There's always a Glowacki in there.
David Glowacki is a theoretical chemist.
Well, of course he is.
It even goes further. I mean, there's so many parts to this story. Dr. Glowacki is an expert in non-equilibrium molecular reaction dynamics.
Well, see, that's fascinating to me because I know much more about equilibrium.
Exactly. He wants the non-equilibrium way.
That's really the
that's a little more specific.
Well, that's very
correct?
obscure. That's a very obscure science.
Well, there you have it. Okay.
What are we talking about?
So the chemist
is a theoretical chemist.
Whatever.
You know, I was theoretically a chemist
my
also.
equilibrium is off right now.
Me too.
Maybe he can help. No, he can't help because he's non-equilibrium.
That's right.
Either way,
yeah.
He's at this classical music concert.
Right.
Okay?
They're performing Handel.
He got thrown out.
He got thrown out.
He got thrown out of a classical music concert at England's Bristol Old Vic. Thrown out.
Okay.
Because when this song was playing...
Okay, this is the song that you know. This is Handel's Messiah.
Right. Okay?
Yeah.
While this song was playing, he tried to crowd surf.
I swear on my life I had not seen that.
He attempted to crowd surf in front of the stage. At a classical music concert, this song was playing, and the theoretical chemist, Dr. Glowacki, tried to crowd surf and got bounced.
There are so many I agree with you. There are so many elements of that story I find interesting. Here's the first one.
Yeah.
What exactly is a theoretical chemist? I mean, like that's a theory. I mean, can we look that up? Can we Google a theoretical chemist?
Is there a practical chemist?
Tell me again what his specialty is.
He's an expert in non-equilibrium molecular reaction dynamics. I don't understand any of those words.
Me neither. And then he's trying to crowd surf. He's trying to get a mosh pit going during Handel's Messiah.
That song was playing. He went in front of the crowd and tried to crowd surf. And he got ejected.
That is remarkable to me. I have not seen that.
I'd like to know in the history of classical music concert at England's Bristol Old Vic how many ejections there have been.
Or anywhere. I mean, just go to go to Avery Fisher Hall or Carnegie Hall or anywhere you want to go.
I mean, we certainly have seen not an ejection, but people leave for Pez dispensers.
A little Seinfeldian reference there. That's right. Laughing during a piano recital.
The pianist was whatever her name was. Not Elaine, but
I know.
So this song is playing, and our chemist is trying to crowd surf.
I find that very funny.
But I loved it because there are so many tentacles to that
I agree.
story.
It's a magnificent story. I mean, you know the piece, though.
Yeah.
You know, there's this Handel.
I know it's his song. Not many words to really
I don't know
write.
that you would call it. Is this really a song?
I don't know. Did he write it?
It's a piece. It's more of a
piece.
They don't call the Mozart's number 5 is not a song. You know, it's not like Glory Days by Bruce Springsteen. It's a piece. You know, they write pieces and concertos and symphonies
Glory
and
Days,
movements.
you may body surf though too.
You may.
Number 5, you may not.
You'd be likelier to body surf during the Ramones Blitzkrieg Bop. But I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the general idea. But I just don't think that at any point you would have walked up to Handel and said, "Hey, I really like that song."
Let me. I don't think we're walking up to Handel as is.
Well,
let me ask you this.
Go ahead.
For the normal person, getting ejected out of a concert, probably bad for you. for a theoretical chemist, could have enhanced his
street cred.
Enhanced his street cred.
Hey, I was body surfing during Handel's Messiah.
Hey, I got thrown out of England's Bristol Old Vic.
You feel lucky, punk? That would be like me doing him body surfing at Handel's Messiah is like me doing Clint Eastwood. Nothing could be more pathetic. Quickly, speaking of classical music, and I was away when we did this, but I was the one who made the observation. If you've ever seen our board operator, Brendan Peregrine, our board op, we call him Bubba. Mm-hmm. He looks just like Luciano Pavarotti. If you know what Luciano Pavarotti looks like, he looks, if you give him like a long handkerchief to be mopping himself constantly while he's singing, not that I've ever heard Bubba sing, he looks just like Pavarotti. We actually tweeted a picture of the two of them. I just retweeted it. It's up at the top of my page right now, at ESPN Greeny. It's from the Mike and Mike feed initially. Of the two of them, I'm telling you right now, they're separated at birth.
It is eerily similar.
Bubba and Pavarotti. Mm-hmm. Consider. They're back in better than ever. Mike and Mike, ESPN Radio. Live on TV on ESPN2. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests are on the Subway Fresh Steak Hotline like Jason Stark. He's got our trivia. 20 minutes from now, we'll have the question. 25 minutes from now, we'll get the answer wrong. So we got that to look forward to. I've got the understatement of the sports year for you in just a moment. But first, Golick has the explanation for the inexplicable.
We talked about Dr. David Glowacki, who got thrown out of a classical music concert in England.
And someone sent us a note that said, isn't Glowacki one of the sausages that run in a race in Milwaukee? Which made me laugh a little.
So, but he's a theoretical chemist, and we were wondering, what is a theoretical chemist?
Yeah.
Well, we have many people who, of course, know that, or so say they do. And Daniel was talking about a theoretical scientist or chemist, saying basically it's a scientist who relies much more on developing mathematical models in the abstract rather than developing experiments to determine the models. There are two ways to research science.
I'm not going to lie to you. You've already lost me.
Well, how about this? There are two ways to research science. You can do experiments in science,
okay,
and interpret the data. Or you can try to develop mathematical models that agree with the current results while explaining possible flaws in other models. Einstein, by the way, he says, was a theoretical physicist. He didn't actually perform the experiments that proved his theories. He was just the one who figured out what was missing in the current understanding. Oh, my God, I don't even know what I'm reading.
Neither do I.
Holy
I have a little easier for you. The Oxford University Catalog's description of theoretical chemistry, and it says, theoretical chemistry is an exciting, contemporary, and broad field. Let me stop right there and suggest not everyone's definition of exciting is the same, okay? Because I'm not going to lie to you. There's nothing exciting about anything that you've heard described here today. It's rooted in chemistry. It straddles the vibrant interfaces between chemistry, physics, material science, and biology, and encompasses any application of mathematical and computational techniques to problems and systems of chemical and related interest.
Smoke. So if you're looking at classes that you're going to take and that's the explanation?
Yeah, and another one is like Spanish.
Yeah.
Yoga. Yoga. That's right. Who is it? Marcus Mariota?
Marcus Mariota
is taking yoga and golf.
So you read the definition of
I'm taking theoretical chemistry.
What's involved in yoga class and what's going to be involved in...
We're going to get the same degree. He took yoga and golf. I straddled the vibrant interfaces between chemistry and physics. He straddled a yoga mat and did downward-facing dog for 40 minutes.
You're both better for it.
And we are, and yeah, he's going to go make millions in the NFL, and I'm going to be body surfing at Handel's Messiah. Speaking of which, I did point out, and then we'll move on to sports again because we got a little sidetracked here.
Yeah.
Our board operator, Bubba, looks exactly like Luciano Pavarotti. Now, all kidding aside, I've said this many times to you. You know that my father is an opera buff. I grew up going to the opera all the time. I know a little bit about opera, not a lot. I would under no circumstance would I say know a lot about opera, but I know enough.
I mean, can I simply state?
Yeah.
Do you need to know a lot? I mean, do you sit there and say, that's a great voice?
No.
Or, you know,
yes,
I don't really like that voice.
Well,
is there much
some
more
degree,
to that?
Yeah. What I mean by knowing a lot is having seen more operas than others.
Okay.
No, my father, if you play him 15 seconds of any opera, he'll tell you what it is.
Here's what I don't get. When you go to an opera, most of them aren't even sung in English.
Correct.
So how the hell do you know what's going on?
Well, there's a couple of things. When I was a kid, they didn't do this, but now they do. At the Met, at least in New York, they have subtitles. They have subtitles in the back of the seat in front of you. So they actually,
Really?
yes, you can read along. You have subtitles, yes.
So you're reading along, but you can't watch what's going on on the stage because you're reading along.
Sure you can. You can
okay,
watch.
I find that way too much work.
Well, if that's too much work for you, I'm sorry. I can't help you. They're doing the best they can.
Okay.
But all kidding aside, just imagine for 1 second being able to sing like this. Or no matter how great a voice we may think Roy Orbison or anyone else you want to say who had a great voice in rock and roll, and he was thought to be a guy with a great rock and roll voice. Just imagine, this is a human being singing. Is that unbelievable? Imagine being able to sing like that.
You know they can digitize this.
No, they can't. That is a human being doing that.
His voice was digitized.
Now, that sounds nothing like Bubba. So Bubba, our board operator, looks just like him. We have the picture up for TV, right? Can we get that up on ESPN2? Look at them. Look at them. He's Pavarotti. He is without any talent at all. He has no obvious talent in any field. But he looks just like Pavarotti. If you're not on TV right now, well, listen, you're on Twitter. I have it up right now at ESPN Greeny on Twitter. They are separated at birth. He's Pavarotti. He just is. He's heavy too, like Pavarotti.
Well,
he's
a
big guy.
Yeah, I mean,
but on Pavarotti, when you sing like that, it's somehow magnificent.
Yeah, look at both those faces.
And when you're Bubba, you know, it's not quite so good.
I'm sorry I have to read this, just because try and understand one word of this. This is from Scott. I don't even know if it's true. Tchaikovsky.
Yeah.
God, I don't even know how he knew that, but Tchaikovsky actually had rioting in the original concerts for his music. He didn't stay within standard boundaries using all 13 notes, and it freaked people out. What? Well, is that even true? I mean, I don't even know if you
probably
make something up.
Well, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. You know, because we didn't have Xbox then. So, you know, people didn't have things to get excited about. You know, so if they had Grand Theft Auto, they would have been rioting to that. But instead, Tchaikovsky's
all 13 notes.
Tchaikovsky's unconventional usage of the notes had people very upset.
Are there only 13 notes?
Well, let's get back to it. Please. Let's get to some football here. What everybody's talking about is, I mean, we've lost complete control of the proceedings.
We really have, but I'm learning something.
What everybody's talking about is brought to you by Dick's Sporting Goods. Every season starts at Dick's. Here's the understatement of the century. Washington receiver Deshaun Jackson, of course now formerly of the Eagles, took a shot at Eagles fans. When asked about his new fan base, said, quote, "It is very different. Fans are very supportive. They are open. Being out on the field, you hear certain things, but they are good things." Then here's the money quote. "In Philly, sometimes things could get a little negative." He goes on to say, they booed their own players.
Oh, no, they didn't.
Quick thought, Deshaun. Wait until you hear how loudly they boo you when you come back this year. But that aside, in Philly, sometimes things could get a little negative.
Really? Hey, thanks, Deshaun. Appreciate that.
He says, here you don't get that. They're here supporting you just as many. Listen,
yeah, wait till you're
the one thing I'll say is it's July 29th.
Yeah, everybody's 0-0.
Let's check back October 29th.
I love that about Philly fans. This has only been going on for decades. Yes, and I'm going to say this. From the bottom of my heart, I loved Philly fans. They're tough. I think they're incredibly smart. And they're unbelievably loyal. I'm not sitting here and saying other fans aren't loyal. Fans are loyal in so many places. But I loved the fans there. I mean, they are tough. There's no doubt they're tough. And sometimes do they go a little overboard? Yeah, but to your say, what do they say? Fan is short for fanatic. They are that there. I loved playing football there. And quite honestly, when we played at Washington, our seats were right so close to the stands. I liked those fans as well. You know, they were hard on us, but you know what? They were good fans. I liked them. I liked that rivalry a lot. But, I mean, this is supposed to talk about the biggest headline that's not news. I mean, really? They boo you in Philly. Thank you, Deshaun. We didn't know that one.
In Philly, sometimes things could get a little negative. not exactly the friendly confines, which is where we shall be tonight. Mike and Mike are on our way to Chicago right after the show today, and we'll be doing the first pitch tonight at Wrigley Field.
Yes,
now,
we will.
Very rarely are we doing anything, much less an athletic activity, in which I have to ask you, do you feel okay going into this tonight? But today, normally anything else we're doing, you'll say, Greeny, okay with this? You good with this? We're going on Letterman, whatever the case may be. I get nervous. Golick generally does not.
Yeah.
Somehow with throwing out the first
pitch,
which we've been privileged to do at probably, 7 or 8 times at big league ballparks.
Yeah.
You get very nervous.
It's unreal because the first 2 I've ever done, I bounced them. The first one was at Wrigley years ago. It's still one of the best pictures of us, from my perspective anyway, is in our book. It's us walking out to the mound at Wrigley Field. And I bounced it in, and I got booed, and I should have gotten booed. And then the next time we threw it was in Cleveland, my hometown. And I bounced it in again. Now, again, I have had 7 shoulder surgeries, and my shoulder is feeling a little tight right now, built-in excuse, working right now. But it's unreal how I've red-brained this thing. I think so much about it now of just making the ball to the plate. For this instant, I'm you, and it nerves me out. You, no matter how you throw it, whether you do your little skip before you throw it.
Don't do a skip.
Yeah, you do.
There's no skip.
Oh, you absolutely
That's
skip.
a wind-up.
A wind-up.
That's a motion.
There's not one pitcher in the league that does that kind of wind-up with a little skip. That's what they do when they're throwing the ball in from the outfield. But
that's a crow hop. You're calling me suggesting it's a crow hop.
So, but regardless, you have made it every single time.
Reached the catcher every time on a fly.
Single time. Now, sometimes it's like a softball pitch, but you've made it there every time.
It's an ephus pitch. I experiment with that a couple of times. But tonight I'm throwing the heat. Because we're approaching the trade deadline, and I'm thinking that, I might be someone who's eligible to get moved.
I just want to reach the catcher. It is amazing how this affects me.
I'm going to throw the split finger tonight. I'm coming hard. It's going to have a little movement on it, and I think there's a real chance I'll wind up pitching the 8th inning for the Cubbies. All right, we're Mike and Mike. Some football news coming up here in exactly 30 seconds, and then Jason Stark with his trivia. But before that, this word from Nivea. Mike, do you find yourself sticking your face in the freezer after you shave? There's a better way to soothe your face with Nivea Men Sensitive Post-Shave.
Yep, its unique formula instantly soothes shaving irritations and moisturizes the skin. Your skin's going to feel relaxed and smooth long after you apply it. Unique formula contains vitamin E and natural chamomile. For the best results, use a complete sensitive grooming range from Nivea Men. Nivea Men, it starts with you, and visit Nivea Men USA on Facebook for more product information.
Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guest on the Subway Fresh Take Hotline, Luciano Peregrine down there running the board for us. Paparoni. Oh, that makes me laugh. Okay, the world has changed for quarterbacks, and I can explain to you how with one simple statistic. Mike, I'd like you to tell me, is it as simple as all of the rules being changed, or is there another explanation for the following? Starting with Joe Flacco and Matt Ryan in 2008, both of whom went 11-5 in 16 starts as a rookie. First-round rookie quarterbacks have averaged over 12 starts per season and won 46% of their starts. Juxtapose that from the merger, meaning 1970, through 2007, so a far larger sample. Go over the span of like 37 years as opposed to the last 7 or 8. First-round rookie quarterbacks averaged 5 starts per season and won only 37% of their starts. So first-round rookie quarterbacks are playing much, much more than they ever have, and they're winning at a far greater clip than they ever have. I'll give you some exact numbers. The first-round rookie quarterback since the merger, the percentage that start week 1, from the merger through 2007, 20%. Only 1 out of every 5 was a week 1 starter. Since then, 69%. Average starts in a season for first-round rookie quarterbacks from 1970 through 2007. They would average about 5 starts per season. Right. Now 12 starts per season. Now, bear in mind, for part of that, they only played 14 games. But still, their winning percentage, they were winning 37%. Now they're winning 46%. And their touchdown to interception ratio was below 50-50 it was 0.7. So they would throw more interceptions than touchdowns. Now they're throwing more touchdowns than interceptions. How has this happened?
Well, I think putting the quarterbacks into play is for a while there was about money until we got to the new CBA where it wasn't so much about money, but you're paying guys so you want to play them. A lot of times, especially the early picks, they're going to bad teams where I think the thought is throw them in there. You know, where the prevalent thought earlier had been sit them, let them wait, let them learn, let them watch from the sideline. Now it's let them get in there. And I think one of the reasons, Greeny, is quarterbacks from youth league to being drafted are better prepared. They see more. They're seeing more defenses from especially high school to college to the pro. There's way more of these 7-on-7 leagues. They have more chances to be a quarterback and see things than quarterbacks did back in the day, as we say. So I think they're coming in better prepared. Do I think the rules help them some? Yeah, but still, you see rookie mistakes. You still see a lot of rookie turnovers because even though you're more prepared, you're still going in now to what you're not prepared for. You can be as prepared as far as seeing defenses, but what you're not prepared for is the speed at which everything happens in the NFL. And that's something that takes everybody is a little different on how much they catch up to that or their accuracy of the tighter windows they have to throw to. But overall, I think quarterbacks are more prepared because they see more from Little League all the way up to where they reach the NFL. They're getting way more reps in seeing defenses before they get there than players did back years ago.
But we have 3 of them this year. How many games are we guessing? Let's just put a guess right now. We'll put July 29th. I mean, anything can happen, obviously. But they're averaging, first-round rookie quarterbacks are averaging starting 12 games in their rookie seasons going back to 2008. Right. So you got 3 of them this year. You got Blake Bortles in Jacksonville. Mm-hmm. You got Johnny in Cleveland. You only need one name. And you've got Teddy Bridgewater in Minnesota.
Well, I think my money for most starts, I think right now would lean to Bridgewater.
Me too.
I believe, and
I think Bridgewater's going to start week 1. I don't think either of the other 2 guys are.
He and Castle are battling right now, and people like what they see out of Bridgewater. We'll see if it's week 1. But
they said all along he was the most ready.
Yes, and he's showing he's the most in the mix right now for it. We've heard from Jacksonville saying their plan is to have Blake sit the entire season.
I think the book on him was always he has the highest ceiling.
But for lack of a better term, they're calling this a redshirt year. Now, we'll wait and see if that actually happens, because if they're playing bad, I think you may want to give him some reps to get his nose bloodied a little bit instead of waiting. We'll see. And Johnny Manziel, quite honestly, Greeny, I think Cleveland is a pretty darn good team. I think they're going to have some wins this year, and I like Brian Hoyer. I think Brian Hoyer is going to play well, and I think Hoyer, more than anybody else, is going to keep Manziel on the sideline. So I would say going into this, I'd say Bridgewater, then Manziel, then Bortles, just because of what their game plan is with Bortles. But Manziel may sit the whole season, too, if Cleveland is in it and Hoyer is playing well, which I can see Hoyer playing well. Now, we'll see. We have a small sampling on him. A lot of it is projecting forward. And also, I'm not all that sold on Johnny Manziel's talents in the NFL as a quarterback. Forgetting all the other stuff. We're talking just about football right now. I'm not sure about it. We'll have to wait and see. Well, I'm not sure about any of them, but we'll see. But the best chance here, yes, I think Bridgewater has a good chance to start week 1.
I have a stat that bodes very well for Johnny Manziel. Would you like to hear it?
Sure.
Johnny Manziel has been one of the most polarizing players in football. However, his play on the field in college was exceptional. He led the FBS in total QBR in 2012, ESPN's quarterback stat. He led the country in total QBR in 2012. Each player with that distinction, the 4 years prior to him, is now an NFL starter. 3 of them advanced to the second round of the playoffs last year. 2012, the highest QBR in college was Johnny Manziel. 2011, it was Russell Wilson. 2010, it was Andrew Luck. 2009, it was Colin Kaepernick. And 2008, it was Sam Bradford, who was the number 1 pick in the draft, and has been up and down.
So 3 of those guys started right out of the gate.
Bradford did, Luck did,
and Russell did.
Wilson did.
Yeah.
Kaepernick waited.
Not. Yeah.
Kaepernick was also not a first-round pick.
Exactly.
And Wilson, of course, wasn't either.
Wilson was a third-rounder,
uh-huh.
and you had 2 number 1s in Bradford and in Luck.
Right. Number 1 overall, yeah.
Right.
So the point is that success on the college level, that level of success, has carried over to the pros.
I see that. If you ask me where Johnny Manziel fits in that list, I'd say he fit more in the Colin Kaepernick category. Not of talent, but of when you got on the field. I don't think Manziel is starting week 1. I don't think there's any way, in my eyes, if out of injury, he's starting week 1.
I agree with that.
I think Hoyer is way ahead of him, quite honestly. And from what I've been hearing, that he is. So where Bradford started week 1, Russell Wilson, remember his competition was Matt Flynn, who his own coordinator who went to Miami as a coach didn't want him. Matt Flynn goes out there and Russell Wilson beats him out. We've seen Matt Flynn hasn't been able to grab on anywhere. So Russell Wilson gets that job, and Andrew Luck was going to be the quarterback. They did absolutely the right thing and said, here, dude, go do your thing. Johnny Manziel is not going to be that. So of those 4 guys, I think he fits more in the Kaepernick where we'll see down the road of when he's going to get his chance.
By the way, we're getting a lot of reaction saying that the composer that you were referring to was not Tchaikovsky, but it was Stravinsky. Concertgoers rioted during the premiere of The Rite of Spring. The dancing was sexualized and the music intentionally sounded primitive and dissonant. No such thing ever happened during a Tchaikovsky concert. He was not that radical of a composer.
My bad.
So it was Stravinsky. It was not Tchaikovsky.
Okay, well, let me just say, the email I read said Tchaikovsky, because I can tell the difference of Tchaikovsky and Stravinsky. The email I read said Tchaikovsky, and I don't know enough, and this was like me trusting an emailer, and there you go. You let me down, and I got to find out who it was so I can publicly blast you.
And then John wants to kill you. He does. Let me preface this by saying that he writes at the end, P.S. just kidding.
Okay, because I'm not being mean in that.
But he does write, yes, he writes, I've listened to your show for years. I have to say I was very disturbed this morning. How dare you say that Pavarotti's voice was digitized? Pavarotti's voice could never be digitized because he is Pavarotti. Ergo, your argument that the maestro's voice could be digitized is vulgar, disturbing, naively mistaken, grossly inaccurate, and all around heinous.
Is he talking about the maestro from Seinfeld?
No, not the... You know who was the maestro from Seinfeld? Well, what else was he famously?
I don't know, and I don't care to guess.
A pledge pin on your uniform. That's exactly right. He looks just like Bubba. Once again,
listen to this. I can just hear him in the back room, moving knobs and gears and digitize. No, not Bubba. Then digitizing to make Pavarotti sound like this.
You couldn't make there's no instrument in the world good enough to sound like this.
Having fun. I understand.
He's the greatest singer that ever lived.
Okay.
So there's no Enrico Palazzo. He's very good.
Okay.
Okay, Mike and Mike. We've gotten really silly today. Anyway, the pictures are up there on Twitter if you want to.
Let's try and get a question right, shall we?
Yeah, we have zero chance of that. Before I do get to that, I would remind you that SportsCenter's NFL training camp coverage of all 32 teams in 10 days continues. Today, SportsCenter is live at training camp with the Saints, the Texans, the Falcons, and... J-E-T-S, meanwhile, right now, Jason Stark.
Good morning, guys. Did you guys know that this week's human trade rumor, John Lester, has won 15 games or more 5 times since 2008, and only 3 other men who have pitched in the big leagues this year have even had at least 4 15-win seasons since then. Think you can name them? Good luck.
All right, that's Pavarotti down there telling us we have no chance. I actually think we have a fighting
3
chance.
others that have had 4 times have had 15 or more wins.
Since 2008. We got a shot. See how we do next. Someone is. Who is it that would have otherwise qualified for this but hasn't pitched in the big leagues this year?
Well, I've actually been struggling with how to use the word active this year, mostly with the hitting questions because of A-Rod.
Right.
The one guy who would have qualified was Roy Halladay. Obviously, he's not active,
right,
but people always seem to quibble with that word. So
got it. Okay.
That's why we phrase it that way.
So we feel very good about this one, right?
Yes.
One of them has to be Justin Verlander.
Okay.
That was the easy one.
Yeah.
I feel quite good about this one. Although, wait a minute. When did he get hurt? He would have missed time in this stretch.
He would have.
With the elbow. I'm taking him out. Never mind. I'm taking him out. You want to go to this one or this one? This one or this one?
Go to that one.
Okay. We're going to go to Cliff Lee.
Oh, God, darn it. I am so aggravated now.
Is one of them CC Sabathia?
Yeah, CC has actually done it more times than anybody, 5 times.
Okay, so that was one of our
And the third one, we had discounted Felix Hernandez because we figure he always wins the Cy Young with like 11 wins.
Exactly.
So it wasn't him.
Only done it one time, Felix.
I just crossed off Adam Wainwright because this would have been when he hurt himself.
Okay, so it wasn't.
So who is it?
So we had 2 on our list.
It would be that Zach Greinke, another excellent human trivia answer.
God, Zach Greinke.
We stink, and I hate Jason.
I do too. I hate him. This one really bothers me. I really thought we had a shot at this. I was so sure about Adam Wainwright, and then just literally as I was about to say his name, I realized, no, wait a minute. This is when he had Tommy John, would have been in this stretch.
Yeah.
Exactly.
How many
he's done it 3 times when healthy, and he's going to do it again.
He's going to do it again. Oh, that is
We
awful.
stink.
Let the record show we are now 1-12.
Yeah.
While Adnan Virk and Tom Waddle are 1-0.
Yeah.
In this contest.
And one time when Coach was in for you, we got it right. Coach and I are 1-0.
So in all other competitions that are not Mike and Mike, the show is 2-0 against Jason Stark.
Yep.
When it's the two of us, we're 1-12.
1-12.
That, my friends, is not a trend. It's a stone-cold lead pipe lock.
Ding.
All right, Jason, quickly, we were talking about Jeter and how he's going to pass Honus Wagner, but you would suggest he already is the hittingest shortstop of all time.
Yeah, Derek Jeter has already gotten more hits than anyone while playing shortstop. He's at 3,347 hits while playing shortstop. And the reason is that Honus Wagner played all over the field. He played more than 200 games at first. He played 50 games at second. He played over 200 games at third. He even played the outfield 372 times. So as just a shortstop, Derek Jeter is already number 1, which I find incredible.
Is Derek Jeter, when we asked Timmy this, and Timmy is sort of my historian on this level, we asked him where Derek Jeter ranks on the list of all-time greatest shortstops, and he says 3rd. You agree with that?
He's got to be somewhere in that range. I mean, look, I think everybody would agree that Honus Wagner would be number 1. Mm-hmm. And then, Ozzie Smith's tricky because of the defense. Ozzie Smith's clearly the greatest defensive shortstop of modern times, but wasn't the same offensive player as Jeter or Ripken or Barry Larkin or Luke Appling. It's very challenging to rate him, but there's no doubt that Derek Jeter is in the top 3 or 4 or, at the very worst, 5 shortstops who ever lived. And you could probably place him as high as 2.
Always a fun discussion when some of the greats leave the game on where they belong on the all-time list. So let's go to the game on the field, one in which Derek Jeter is still playing, but trade deadline is coming up, and it's been David Price. Now it seems to be John Lester.
Yeah, he's obviously the number 1 name on this market. I would be surprised. I think most people would be surprised if he isn't traded. I mean, think about how everything points to it. The Red Sox haven't been able to sign him. Now he's told them he's still open to coming back if they trade him, although that seems unlikely given where they are in negotiations. There's probably going to be no other starting pitcher or even player on this market who can approach him in impact on any race. And the Red Sox know now they're not a team that's going to win anything. They're 11 games out in the East. They have a minus 48 run differential. They lost 14-1 last night at home. Our standings page gives them a 0.1% chance of making the postseason. So how can they not trade him? How can they not trade a bunch of guys for that matter?
So where is Lester going to go?
Well, we're still in the realm of the usual suspects. All the teams that were in that market for David Price have shifted their attention to John Lester. So we're talking about Dodgers, Mariners, Cardinals. They're getting a lot of inquiries from a lot of teams. But remember now, he's just a rental, and the price is not that much cheaper than it would have been for David Price. So the Rays were having a hard time finding a match. I think a lot depends on where the Red Sox go in terms of what they're asking. And right now they're asking for pretty much what the Rays wanted, and I would say this goes right down to the deadline.
Yeah, because the thing with didn't he already say he's going to sign back in Boston next year anyway?
Well, he wants
That's not what he said. He said he was still open to it. He'd still like to be there. But if he was going to sign with the Red Sox, that already would have happened, wouldn't it?
Well, perhaps. Although, you make sure you get out in the open market, you see what everyone else might offer you, and then you tell Boston, all right, I'll take that plus $10, and then I'm coming back. So David Price is not going anywhere, right?
Well, it's interesting. And the Rays are still telling teams they want to wait as long as possible to decide what they're going to do. But I mean, think about how they played now. If you're just going to look at this from the standpoint of pure mathematics, they should still probably sell. If you just spit their odds through a computer, the computer would tell you sell. I don't know how they can do that to their team. They were 18 games under 500 a month and a half ago. Now they're 2 under. Let me ask Golick. I mean, you played professional sports. What would your reaction be if your team did what this team had done, poured its guts out for a month and a half, and then management said, "Hey, thanks for doing that, but never mind."
So ticked. I'd be so mad. I mean, where they've gotten back to 7 out in the division, 4.5 out in the wild card, still certainly enough games to make that move. If I was a player on that team, I'd be absolutely ticked. Yes, without a doubt.
And remember, they can trade them this winter. They don't have to trade them right now. I don't think the return would be the same, but they're very competitive people. No team's ever been 18 games under 500 and then played in October. They would love to be the first. That would probably motivate them more.
I guess the question would be, what's David Price's long-term future? I mean, let's not just focus on the next 2 months. Where is David Price going to wind up pitching the bulk of the prime of his career?
Yeah, it's not going to be in Tampa Bay, and everybody knows that, which is why we're in this place to begin with. He's already said, I'm not signing in Seattle, for example, if they trade for him. But if he went to a team like the Dodgers, sure, why not? I've been told by friends of his that if it were up to him, he'd love to be a Brave. He would love to be a Cardinal. Now, whether those teams can give him like a Felix Hernandez deal, I'm not sure. But you'd have to think that, he's a very, very intelligent guy who wouldn't necessarily think he's got to get the last dollar. And so he's going to go where he's happy, which puts a lot of teams in play.
Jason Stark every week stumping us and having fun.
Whatever.
With trivia here on Mike and Mike. Thank you, Jason.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
See you later. Again, with baseball in mind, we will be at Wrigley Field tonight.
Yes, we will.
Throwing out the first pitch.
Mm-hmm.
So if there are scouts out there,
I will be able to. I'm very nervous because I bounced in a couple of first pitches. Now, subsequently, the last few I've done just fine. I've figured it out now. I'm just imagining the catcher's mitt is Jason's head. And I will fire the ball in there because he just loves to embarrass us.
Coming up next, one player says his confidence is at an all-time sky high. And I think this is significant. You'll hear who right after this on Mike and Mike. We got a really special interview coming your way in 45 minutes. I hope you can be with us for this. Amy Van Dyken is going to join us. Amy Van Dyken is an Olympic swimmer, a much-medaled
6-time gold medal
swimmer for many years, and as many are aware, she was in an accident riding an ATV, and she is paralyzed from the waist down. And on Twitter and in other appearances in which we have seen her, her spirit and her attitude is so inspiring, it's almost impossible to believe.
It's stunning to me from the accident on. Now, certainly, I'm sure she's had private moments, and we'll talk to her about that, where maybe it all wasn't so rosy. I don't know. But what she is projecting forward is just amazing, of somebody who says how quickly they said, this is my situation, I'm going to embrace it. It's been incredible, and it's a little more special for me because my daughter is a swimmer at Notre Dame, and, growing up, she put posters up in her room of great swimmers to inspire her, and on her wall is a poster of Amy Van Dyken, along with a Natalie Coughlin, a Michael Phelps. I mean, those are they're still up on her wall. So it's an incredible. She's an incredible person. So I said to these guys last week, we need to get her on, because I heard her again talk, and it's just unbelievably inspirational when something bad happens to you, how you deal with it. So we're really, really looking forward to that.
So we'll have that in about 45 minutes for you. Meanwhile, Derrick Rose says his confidence is, quote, through the roof. Mm-hmm. Rose was played just 10 games in the last 2 seasons because of a torn ACL and then a torn meniscus, one in the left knee, the other in the right knee. Is confident he will return to being the player he was before the injuries occurred. He's in Team USA's training camp this week as the group prepares for the World Cup of Basketball in Spain late next month. When Derrick Rose was asked how close he was to playing like his old self, he said, quote, "I'm there, man. I'm not worried about that. My confidence is very high, and that's the only thing you might see this year, that my confidence level is through the roof." Mike Krzyzewski, who's the coach, said there were no restrictions on Rose, and that, quote, "I was ecstatic about watching him today," end quote.
It was interesting. You missed 2 years, and now you have this going on, the Team USA. Instead of do you wait and for the season to start and make sure you can play for the team you haven't played for in 2 years. But if your body's ready to go, and this is a great way I think, to start it, to get it going. Now, that said, God forbid should anything happen while this is all going on. But he says he feels fine. He says there's no, his coach said there's no restrictions. And as I said, you have to get over the mental hurdle of doing everything you can do, of playing again without thinking. And coming back from an injury, that's one of the things that you do is you think. Every player, if you played long enough, has had a major injury, and I don't care how great you are or not, has had a major injury to come back from. And there's the mental side of, can I go do the things that I did before this injury? Can I still do them? You have to get over that mental hurdle when a doctor says your ailment, your physical ailment is healed. Now you have to get it into your head. Can I still cut? Can I still jump? Can I still do everything that I could do before, or as close to I could do it now with whatever physical limitations there may be with the injuries? And he seems to be there. Time will tell, certainly, as he plays, but it seems like his head is in the right spot.
Yeah, so that's a big part of it for the return, and obviously a huge question in Chicago. Kevin Love is not playing with the team in the World Cup. He is backed out of, or dropped out of it, whatever the word is, with his situation that's going on right now. I saw Blake Griffin had to drop out of it because
he had a little crack in his back that they're going to let heal up, so he is out of it as well.
Spurs have asked Manu Ginobili because of a broken bone in his tibia,
his tibia, lower leg, and they found it in the exit physical that he had, so they asked him to opt out of that. That's listen, there's no doubt about it. This is not what you I can't speak for everybody, but your main goal is the NBA. If you have an ailment or an injury, this is not something to play through this summer to do. You have to heal up and be ready for your season.
And meanwhile, the big story in the NBA, of course, yesterday was the judge siding with Shelley over Donald Sterling, clearing the way for the sale of the Clippers, supporting her right to sell the team to ex-Microsoft CEO Steve Ballmer for $2 billion. This was Shelley.
I didn't know which way it was going to go. I just tried to do the best thing for our family and for everybody else. I think we have the best new owner that anybody could ever find, and I think it'll be even better than it was before.
She loves the $2 billion she's going to be getting, or certainly getting some of that. Her husband Donald going to get some of that as well. She said she still has perks like she was an owner from Ballmer, who was giving her special. She said she will be at games and plans on going to games. What was interesting, and I think we have it, is somebody asked her, will Donald go to the games? Do you have
think the ban will be lifted. There's a new owner, a new sheriff in town, and it's going to be good. It's going to be good for the city, for the fans, for the league, for everybody. And that's all we want.
You heard the beginning of that. I think the ban will be lifted. She was asked, because when she said, I'm going to be going to the games, someone asked, will your husband Donald be going to the games? And she said, yes. Then you went into, you heard it. I think the ban will be lifted. That's not happening. I don't think that's not happening at all. Do we expect Adam Silver at any time soon to say the ban is lifted? Remember, he banned him. The owners are just voting to vote him out as an owner.
And they haven't done that either.
But the ban is in place. So he's banned, and Adam Silver said he's banned from NBA buildings, correct? Or games?
I don't know. Yes, he's banned.
Yes.
Here's what I don't know. He's Pete Rose. That's where he is. He's for totally different reasons. He's in the same circumstances. Here's the one thing you'll never know. Is Shelley Sterling did not want to be thrown out with the bathwater here. And she's got some questionable stuff on her record as well.
She sure does.
She's not Donald, but she's got some questionable stuff.
She absolutely does.
The way she made this whole thing happen with whatever team of people she had around her, but let's give her credit for being smart here. She may have worked out a deal with the NBA that you'll never know about, where she said, look, I will get this thing sold. I will get this thing done fast, quick. Your owners will never have to vote. Look, this could not have worked out better for the NBA.
Right? Without a doubt.
And that's what the NBA is. is the owners, right?
Yep.
I mean, this thing got sold out from under Donald.
Right.
They didn't have to do anything.
That's exactly right.
The NBA didn't do anything. He banned him for life and became a hero. The rest of the owners just sat there and did nothing. Shelley took care of everything.
And the only way Donald can get back at the owners is to go through Shelley. And round one here, Shelley wins.
Yeah.
So that's what he has to go through before he can try and get to the owners. Now, you brought up the question, after all is said and done and he's out and it's no more, will he just on his own time try and find some dirt on the owners?
I don't know if he will or he won't.
I don't know if he will either.
He strikes me as a person who, at least on some days, will feel like being vindictive in all of this. But I guess the larger point here is Shelley orchestrated this thing so that it couldn't have worked out better for the NBA and for the NBA's owners. And who knows if that wasn't a promise she made to sort of keep her out of the fray at the very beginning. We continue in a moment, Mike and Mike. We're live on your TV on ESPN2. Our guests appear on the Subway Fresh Take Hotline and a very special one coming up in this hour. 30 minutes from now, Amy Van Dyken, 6-time Olympic gold medalist swimmer, as we know if you've been following this at all, but paralyzed in an accident on an ATV not long ago, and her spirit has been remarkable, inspirational, and beyond that. The whole world has sort of stopped and been in awe of her remarkable courage, and she'll join us in a half hour.
It seems the people that she is inspiring is just growing as well. And my wife, Chris, actually sent me, and I'm going to somehow get it tweeted out if I can figure this thing out, the actual picture that Sydney has up on her wall that actually Amy Van Dyken signed it, and Sydney got to meet her at a golf tournament as well. So really looking forward to talking to her.
Well, what are you having trouble?
I'm just bad at taking the photo and getting into the tweet. I tried it. I got it, but it didn't. The picture
didn't do it on your phone. Do it on your phone.
I just tried that, and it didn't work.
Did you save the picture into your phone?
I copied it. I didn't save it.
No, save it.
Oh, I can save it in my phone. Oh.
And then you can tweet it, and it'll say, do you want to tweet an existing photo? And you say yes, and you choose
I just tried to copy it. I tried to do it in the 30 seconds I had before we came back on. Okay, I was rushed.
That's not good.
No.
I'm a little taken.
You want me to do it now? I got a show to do.
Go ahead,
here,
you do it then. It's all right. Well, the show is better off without you. Let me go back a moment to May, when this whole thing happened with Sterling. We were just talking about the Donald Sterling decision that was rendered yesterday in court, siding strongly with Shelley Sterling, and a huge step, not in any way a finality, but a huge step towards the sale of the Clippers to Steve Ballmer and towards Donald Sterling not being able to do anything about it. Going all the way back to May, if someone had said the outcome of all of this is going to be the team is going to wind up being sold out from under Donald, he will have no control over that whatsoever, to a highly reputable guy who's richer than any of the other owners in the league, confirming its status as a glamour franchise, which it certainly has never been considered before. Sterling will be thrown out of the league with nothing he can do about that, nothing he can do about the sale, and all the other owners in the NBA will never have really had to do anything about it at all.
Right.
You never would have believed it.
No, I agree with that.
From that standpoint alone, it could not have worked out.
It could not, because we know the fear of those owners when Donald Sterling was talking about hiring private investigators to dig into their pasts and go into their closets. I guarantee you there was a whole lot of nervous people out there. Now, maybe some don't have anything to be nervous about. That's fine, but Donald was going to dig. And they didn't have to go. I'm with you. It could not have worked out better for them, never having to cast a vote. Let's see if it stays that way down the road.
Was there any surprise by the judge's decision yesterday, according to our legal analyst, Roger Cossack? No.
It's not surprising considering what the doctors had said who testified against Sterling, that he was incompetent to act as a trustee in the best interest of the Clippers. And, he certainly didn't help his case by the way he acted out in court. As Araj indicates, telling him one time that he loved his wife and the other time calling her a pig in open court. You add that together, this is not a surprising ruling that a judge finds that he is mentally incompetent to act as a co-trustee. But let me remind you, he may have been removed as a co-trustee, but he's not removed as an owner. So when that $2 billion sale goes through, he's still entitled to half of it.
So at the end of the day, he's going to get his money, and he's going to be out, and frankly, that's exactly what should happen.
And basically the judge, in this case, Judge Michael Levanis, I believe is how we've been saying it, said Shelley's testimony was far and away more credible than Donald. Donald's answers were often evasive, and in one instance were inconsistent with his previous testimony. So this is where it is now. The word from Sterling's lawyer is that Sterling said, keep fighting. So that's kind of been his M.O. gum up the works a little bit, and as we have started to read about his past more and more, he gets to the point where he wears down his opponents in court. And it doesn't seem like it's going to be that way in this instance. Though, if he throws enough things in the gears, does he gum up some of the gears and win any of these, or is it just all failed attempts and nothing will gain traction to have any kind of serious threat back toward the NBA? Time will tell, but in this round, he lost.
Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. Customers who switch to Progressive save an average of $500. Call or click today. Find out if Progressive could save you hundreds on your car insurance. It was during this hour yesterday that we had our interview with Adolfo Birch, the NFL senior VP, who gave to what is to this point the only public explanation on behalf of the league of the decision to penalize Ray Rice 2 games, suspend him 2 games for his involvement in the domestic violent incident in February. I saw this note in the notes this morning, Mike. The Ravens were at practice yesterday. On 2 separate instances, fans gave loud cheers when Rice was shown on the big screen at the stadium where the Ravens held their first open practice of training camp. The first time was when Rice had a playful race with a small child along the sidelines. By the time Rice reached the end, which was a few feet from the stands, many fans gave him a standing ovation. A few minutes later, Rice was again shown on the large video board. When fans cheered him, Rice tapped his chest. He is expected to speak to reporters on Thursday. He did release a statement last week when it was announced that the suspension was 2 games. He talked about how he is disappointed he won't be on the field with his teammates, and on and on. You've seen the statement by now. He has chosen not to appeal the 2-game suspension, which is not a surprise. The surprise was that it was as slim a suspension as it was. But again, fans giving him a warm reception at practice yesterday, on one hand, doesn't surprise me.
Right.
On the other hand, it does a little. It's tough to say. You know, it's very difficult. I understand if you're a big fan of the team and you're a big fan of Ray Rice, and let's face it, up until the day before that day in February, this was a guy with an exceptional reputation who was known to have done a lot of good things. So I get it. I get that he's your guy and you like him. I have a tough time imagining right now, immediately, the very first reaction that you have to him, the first opportunity you have to react to him after having seen that video, to be giving him a standing ovation under any circumstances. So I guess I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I'm
a little surprised.
I'm not surprised. I mean, what they're doing is they're showing support. Whatever they feel or how they feel that situation was adjudicated by the league. He's going to be gone for a couple of games. Do they feel that he handled it all well with he and his wife, or then girlfriend or fiance, they got married, and they're showing their support? I don't know. One thing I'm certainly not going to do is tell anybody how they should react to a player, to one of their players. And I wasn't there. I don't know if every person clapped, and maybe some didn't. I don't know. But no, it does not surprise me that they were showing support for their player.
And, you know, John Harbaugh, who had Herman Edwards in here earlier saying that, you know, the league can make whatever decisions it wants to, and then the team can make others. Now, there is a provision that says you can't both punish the player. The league has spoken, and thus the Ravens could not suspend him, nor could they dock him any game check.
But they could deactivate him.
That's what Herman said.
That's what Herman's done.
He's done it. He said he could deactivate him. He did it with John Abraham, and then he did it in New York and for one game for a DUI incident, and then he did it in Kansas City, and he did not name the player that he was talking about here, but if you look up the story, you'll know who it is. And he said that he called the commissioner and said, I'm deactivating him 3 weeks in a row.
3 weeks.
And he told the player, you're going to practice, you're going to work all week, and then you're not going to play this week.
You're still getting paid. You still got paid. You couldn't, and then the league.
And I don't think there's anything that the union can do about that, do you?
No. They can. He can. That's the coach's decision to deactivate. You know, they deactivate X amount of players a week, and you can deactivate whoever you want. So no, I don't think there's anything, because he's still getting his paycheck. That's the thing. I mean, it's not a suspension to where he's just not playing, where then the league jumped in and suspended him for a game after that, so in total he missed 4 games, but only 1 paycheck. So the team can do what they want. The Ravens have been gaining a lot of criticism for having players on their team that have had some issues. They picked up another. They signed Will Hill, who can't even play the first 6 games of the season. They signed a suspended player. So they have been getting, you know, banged a little bit for some of the players they have. We've seen this in the past with Cincinnati. Would bring in players that were, you know, a little suspect with some of their actions, and the Browns family always thought we're kind of a second chance. People we're gonna try and see if we can get the good out of them, and You know, whether Marvin Lewis is, I'm sure publicly he'll say he was always on board, whether he was or wasn't, no one will ever know. Only inside they'll know. So this is not like it doesn't happen, and it doesn't mean if somebody does something wrong, they shouldn't get a chance to play again. I'm not saying that either. We're not saying Ray Rice should never play again. When Michael Vick went to jail for what he went to jail for, he served his time, and then I had yes, if someone wants to offer him a job, you get a job. We're not saying that at all. We're not saying that they should never work again. Our just thought is the punishment should have been a little stiffer before he was allowed to play again.
Yeah, the thing is, you can demonstrate through your actions. I've always said when someone makes a critical mistake or someone does something that is of this magnitude, all you can do is start living your life again starting on the next morning. And you do the best you can to prove to people, to demonstrate to people, not through your words, but through your actions, that you should be trusted again, that you should be forgiven again, that you should be a part of whatever it is you were a part of before again. I get that, and people do deserve that right. But it doesn't come immediately. It doesn't come with a statement. And when there has been almost no consequence, I mean, when through the legal system went the way it went, and basically he'll go through a diversion program, the whole thing will be expunged from his record, that's the end of it, and he winds up getting suspended 2 games, and then he's out there week 3 with his teammates as though he had sprained an ankle in practice, you know, in preseason. It feels like there were no consequences, and I think there are people out there who are going to hold that against him on some level. They're going to feel as though Ray Rice didn't really pay the piper for what happened here, and they're going to be further upset with him. I've heard a lot of people say this isn't about Ray Rice, it's about the reaction. Well, it's about both.
Well, it is.
I mean, the initial action obviously was Ray Rice. The reaction is what everyone is upset about today.
We can be mad at Ray Rice for what he did.
Right.
He hit a woman, to which he's apologized for and said he made a mistake and won't do it again, and that's great. I hope he never does. But that's ultimately the reason we're sitting here talking about it, because of what he did wrong in this situation, and then the dominoes start to fall with the different decisions.
But again, if what we had heard announced from the NFL last Thursday afternoon was something totally different than what it was, I think the reaction right now would be totally different.
Without a doubt.
And I would understand a little more the support that Ray was getting from the fans in Baltimore or anywhere else if the announcement came down from Roger Goodell last week. He's suspended for a year. And DeMaurice Smith is going to be on the phone right now. Go ahead, fight me. Let's talk.
Yeah.
Let's have a conversation about this. But that's my initial ruling.
At the end of the day, and I'm not going to blame fans for this, they want their team to win, and they want their players on the field to help their team win, and they're sitting in the stands, and a lot of them don't care, you know, about anything off the field. They want them on the field, and I'm not going to judge them as right or wrong. They're supporting their team. They're supporting their players. You know, to me, I don't care if they gave them a standing O or cheered for them. You can all do what you want. As far as that's concerned, you just want your team to win. I get that. I understand. And it's up to you individually to decide, is this a guy I want to cheer for right now, or am I going to wait a little bit on it? That's your choice. You do what you want on that.
I guess the point I'd make, I understand what you're saying. Yeah. And yes, every single one of us, who is a fan of a team, a hardcore, passionate fan of a team or multiple teams, has cheered at one time or another for someone who we would not have liked, whether you knew it or not. And in most cases, you do. You've cheered for someone who had this on his record or that on his record, who did this or that or the other. And all I'm saying is the fact that this was the very first time that people had a chance to react to him in any way since the tape, not since the decision by Goodell,
right,
but since the videotape itself was widely seen in February. I was a little surprised that it was the way it was. Okay, Mike and Mike, let's move to other things.
Okay.
There is an NFL team that absolutely could have saved itself a lot of aggravation and maybe even saved its season a year ago if it had just listened to me.
No, jeez.
Bruce Allen, who is the general manager in Washington, says it was a mistake on WXGI radio to play Robert Griffin III in the opener last season, saying, quote, "It was almost a little disrespectful to the game of football. It's impossible to ask a player to perform well during the regular season if you haven't practiced. Last year at this time, he's still rehabbing his knee. He's not allowed to practice. He's not allowed to work in team drills at all because he's still rehabilitating himself. We put him in really on the spot. We put him really on the spot by trying to do that," end quote. Well, turn the tapes on, because a year ago, before the season started, I was sitting here screaming and yelling, they are making a huge mistake. This guy's not ready to play. They won't put him on the field for a snap in the preseason, but they're going to have him start week 1 as though everything is fine. They're rushing him back from this knee injury, and I still believe that there was artificial pressure placed by the whole marketing campaign built around the return and everything else, which was a huge mistake in the Derrick Rose case.
The only pressure was on RG3. It wasn't on the team. The company wasn't putting pressure on the team.
I think that if you look at the relationships involved and look at the friction that existed between RG3 and Mike Shanahan and whatever role it is that the owner played in all of that and the rest of that there was leverage being placed in a situations where it does not belong.
Who's placing the leverage?
I think the player and his
the player
people
is
surrounding the player are placing.
Well, that's on RG3. Don't blame the company for that. That's RG3. He made the decision to put the leverage on the team that I want to play.
Well, look, let me make it clear. I don't know this for a fact. Yeah. I'm telling you this was my perspective from outside. That it felt like 2 minutes after he got hurt, all anyone was talking about, all in for week one. Well, everything was placed on being back for week one.
Here's where
the reality is it's a 4-month season.
And I disagree with you because I don't care whether there's a campaign or not. Any player worth his salt wants to get back for week one. And I will not change my opinion that I had no problem with him playing given the information we were given. And listen, a lot of times you're not given the right information. The information was that we're just being cautious with him. It wasn't he's physically unable to play. If he was physically unable to play, I get it then, not playing him. But the information was we're just being cautious with him. He could play, but we're holding him out for a little bit.
Well, the hilarious part of this is they chose not to play him at the end of the season.
Yeah.
But they had to play him
at the beginning
of the season.
I know.
Now, here's what I'd like. I was not listening when Bruce Allen did this interview. It was on WXGI Radio in Richmond, Virginia. So I don't know the entirety of the conversation. But what I'd like to hear is when he said it was almost a little disrespectful to the game of football for RG3 to open the season last year without being properly prepared. I'm sure the question was asked, but it's not in my story. Well, why was he out there?
Why was he out there? Yes.
Why was he playing? Ultimately, if Mike Shanahan, who ultimately has to make that decision, how did he allow himself to be talked into that?
That's exactly right.
If it was almost a little disrespectful to the game of football.
I have to believe that was one of the next questions, if not the next question, and we don't. I'd like to find that answer out as well. I'd like to hear what the explanation is.
If anyone at WXGI Radio in Richmond is listening right now, call us and let us know. And if you have a tape of it, I'd love to hear it. Because that to me is the question. If he wasn't ready to play,
why did you do it?
Why was he
You're
playing?
the GM. You have a coach. You guys can control the player, okay? Listen, would anybody have batted an eyelash if they said, you know what, he is just physically not ready to play? We're not putting him out there. You know, I'm sure RG3 was saying, I'm ready to go, I want to play. Most players are going to do that. That's where it's up to the coach and the organization to put the brakes on the players like they're doing with concussions now and taking your helmet away and not protecting the player from himself. Players want to play. And listen, we're not the smartest cats in the world. We're going to be still hurt and still want to go play. They want to be on the field. That's where the organization has to step in and say, I know you want to be on the field. You're physically not ready to go. You're not playing right now. So to me, as far as I'm concerned, this is on the team. Players want to play. But you know what? You know what a player can't do if the coach and the GM doesn't want him to? Can't walk on the field and play. You can keep him off the field. So I'm with you. I'd love to hear that answer of then why did you put him out there in week one?
I'd like to hear it, too, because the scenario I'm painting in my mind, and let me make it clear, this is just one of the things I'm envisioning could possibly have happened. But I'm not in any way reporting this happened, nothing. I don't know the insides of what's going on there at all. I don't know any of the people involved, now beyond to say hello to. But what I'm saying is, look at the dynamic. Player, owner, coach. Coach says no. Player talks to owner. Right. I mean, there was friction between Snyder and Shanahan.
Right.
And is that part of where that comes from? And how much of this pressure? I get it that all players want to play. I obviously understand that. But when you have a multi-tens of millions of dollars marketing campaign built around you coming back, it places external pressure. It has to.
I don't buy that. I don't buy that. If RG3 felt he wasn't physically ready to play, I'm sorry, I don't buy it.
But every player always feels he's physically ready to play.
I know. That's why I'm not putting the campaign in it at all. That's why I'm going back to players always feel like they can play and they want to play. Take that campaign away, and I think you're in the exact same situation.
Well, I'd love to ask Bruce Allen that question or hear what his response was when he was asked that question, because to me, I think that's an extremely important part of this story. Mike and Mike, we're going to do the Haynes Comfort Zone feature in just a moment, and we're going to put Eli Manning in it because he's kind of struggling to get to it. You know, he's got a new offensive coordinator in Ben McAdoo. And, they always say that when you learn a new offense or you learn a new system, it's kind of like learning a new language. Is that an accurate thing? Is it like learning a new language?
Yes, it is. It's a lot of the same concepts. You're basically doing a lot of the same things, but there's a different, if it's called something different. So basically, yes, you are learning different terminology.
Well, the problem that Eli Manning has is that he doesn't understand the language that Ben McAdoo, the offensive coordinator, is speaking, even though they're both speaking English. I find this story hilarious. It is in today's New York Post. Ben McAdoo, the offensive coordinator, is from Homer City, Pennsylvania, which is about 50 miles outside of Pittsburgh. And in the story it says he sounds like it. And we've spent a lot of time in Pittsburgh. If you've ever been around anyone from Western PA, there's a very specific accent that is common. If you hear Mike Ditka talk, he has it. Dave Wanstead has it. A lot of guys from Western PA have that accent. Eli Manning, of course, is from New Orleans, has a little bit of that southern drawl. And as Manning says, we're getting better. We had a few mishaps in OTAs. There were a couple of words that Pennsylvania accent, we don't say the words the same way. I don't always understand. We've dealt with it. To mimic what will happen in games, McAdoo is not standing next to Manning calling the plays. He's using a walkie-talkie to bark them into the speakers in Manning's helmet. And that has led to some confusion. For example, some plays contain the word wool. Wool, W-O-O-L, wool, like a woolen sweater.
Right.
But the way McAdoo says it, Eli says it sounds more like roll, R-O-L-L. So Manning says, I had to figure out what he was saying. He says it his way, I adjust to him. He's going to say it that way. He's got to know what he's talking about. So now I know roll means wool. So imagine if you're standing there in your helmet, you're hearing wool, 229.86 left, wool. And you're thinking, is he saying wool or wool? Because they sound to you, they sound the same. He said now wool is wool.
Yeah. So now we're past even learning a new terminology.
We're
just understanding the words you're trying to enunciate.
Have you ever heard of that happening before?
No, I have not heard of that. And again,
obviously
it's magnified because you're not standing there talking to the person. As you said, it's through a walkie-talkie into the headphones
now,
or into the
Does the
receivers.
offense, is it usually the offensive coordinator personally who is the one talking into that? I mean, during the game,
Normally
right?
it is,
He's the one.
He's usually the play caller, yes.
Because, if this gets to be really bad, you have to have someone else handing him plays,
if they obviously have problems with it, yeah, you would. But now you're taking more time. Now that person has to tell this person, and this person then has to tell the quarterback. You'd really like to not have to go through that.
So we'll see if they can ever work their way into the comfort zone, the Haynes comfort zone, Mike. If Eli Manning cannot understand the English language when it is spoken by his play caller, he could have a problem getting in the comfort zone.
Well, he could, but I think over time, like anything else, you hear it enough, you understand what he's saying now, what you may interpret to, once you hear it enough, you'll get in that comfort zone to understand exactly what he's saying.
Hanes tagless T-shirts and underwear. Never deal with an annoying, itchy tag again. Hanes known for their tagless T-shirts. Now all Hanes underwear is tagless as well. This includes every pair of boxers, briefs, and boxer briefs, as well as every Hanes T-shirt. So the incredibly comfortable T-shirts and underwear you've come to love are now even more comfortable. Go pick up a pack of Hanes T-shirts and underwear. Hanes, go tagless. Coming up next, she is an inspiration to millions, and she joins us live on Mike and Mike.
Golick, we've been talking about our friends at Mahindra Tractors for months, and I can't think of a better investment or value for our listeners.
That's right, Greenie. Whether you own 1 acre or 100, a Mahindra tractor can help you care for your land.
Exactly, and when there's snow to clear in the winter and mowing and landscaping the rest of the year, with a Mahindra, you can do it all.
And remember, buy a tractor for the performance, not just the paint color. Mahindra tractors push, pull, and lift more than the other brands.
And every Mahindra comes with an industry-leading 5-year powertrain warranty.
So hurry and get your Mahindra today. Mahindra Dealer Days is going with the best deals of the year, like 0% financing for up to 84 months.
That's 7 years interest-free. No wonder Mahindra is the world's #1 selling tractor.
Take it from Mike and Mike. Care for the land you love with Mahindra. Learn more at MahindraUSA.com.
Take advantage of rock-bottom prices and great financing on a new Mahindra, the world's #1 selling tractor. To find your local dealer and test drive a Mahindra, please visit MahindraUSA.com.
Hi, boys and girls. It's Mr. Tony, and unless you live in a cave, you need good windows, okay? And I guess chimpanzees don't really need windows either, but trust me, when they grow up to be monkeys, they'll want good windows too. Now, I'm no monkey, but I've had my Window Nation windows now for over 5 years, and I really like them. Plus, the guys at Window Nation are great to deal with. They'll work with you to get you exactly what you need. And with over 1,500 styles to choose from, they're going to have a perfect fit for you, something that will not only look great, but will also keep you nice and cool this summer. And right now, Window Nation has a great deal for you. Buy 2 windows, get 1 free. Buy 4, get 2 free. And if Gary's math is right, buy 8, get 4 free. Plus, financing a whole house of windows is simple. You can get the whole house for $59 a month or 0% interest for 12 months. What are you waiting for? Pick up the phone right now. Call Harley and Aaron at 1-888-666-6422. Or you can look them up on your own personal Google machine at windownation.com.
The accident that left her paralyzed from the waist down. Her spirit in every interview that we've seen, certainly on social media and beyond, when interacting, it seems, with everyone from her fans to her family to anyone else, has been remarkable. Her courage has been remarkable. And again, it's been an inspiration to so many. And we're very pleased to welcome on the Subway Fresh Take Hotline, 6-time Olympic gold medalist Amy Van Dyken Ruin is with us here on Mike and Mike. Amy, how are you this morning? And thank you for a few minutes of your time.
Oh, I'm doing great this morning. How are you guys doing?
Doing well, Amy. And first and foremost, again, thanks for this time. And I'll just mention again, you had signed a poster for my daughter Sydney, who's going to be a junior swimmer at Notre Dame. And on it, you said, "Reach for the stars." It still hangs in her room today. I know you don't remember. You had a chance to meet her years ago at a golf tournament out there. But, you know, you've been such an inspiration to people while you were going through your athletic career. And now for a different reason, you are as well. But first, let's talk about, you know, after you had the accident, while people looked to you as an inspiration for your swimming, your athletic accomplishments, who did you look to when you found yourself in a position that you had really never been in before in your life?
Well, first of all, I do remember meeting Sydney, and I've been following her career all the way through Notre Dame, so totally psyched that she's doing well.
Thank you.
But, you know, it's so funny. I don't really remember a lot of the accident, but reaching for who I looked to is really my husband, Tom. He's been there since, obviously, day one, and he never really leaves my side, except for to go to sleep. So he has been my inspiration through this whole thing. I mean, he's been so strong, and I can't believe, you know, a football player would, you know, be able to show the emotion that he's been showing and just be such a superstar. Like, what a rock star he is.
Would it be, as it seems like a horrible comparison, but how young swimmers look to you as a swimmer now in the position you are in? Did you look to somebody in a similar position as to what you would be dealing with?
As far as the accident, I mean, you know, there's lots of people. Christopher Reeves, of course, has been a huge inspiration. And I just started reading the book that he wrote with Dana, his wife, Dana Reeves, about their love story. So, you know, he's been an inspiration to everybody with spinal cord injuries. So, you know, he's a guy that I would aspire to be with this injury and to be as strong as he was with the injury that he had. So, you know, that's someone that I would aspire to be like for sure.
What was the message? I guess so many people look at you and view your perspective in this as being one of enormous courage. Where does that come from? What is the actual attitude and the approach that you take when you wake up every morning in the position that you're in today?
You know, I look at every day like I am so excited to be alive because when my husband found me, I wasn't breathing. And then again in the hospital, I was told that, you know, my spinal cord was so close to my aorta that if they slipped that I was going to pass away. And then again, 72 hours after that, it was touch and go. So every single morning that I wake up and I get to get my blood pressure taken and my temperature taken and my pulse ox taken, I am so excited to be here because there was a chance I wasn't going to be here. So I just look at every day as a blessing and I move forward with it that day.
Talking to Amy Van Dyken Ruin again, 6-time Olympic gold medalist, won 4 of them at the 96 Olympics. And it's just to hear you talk about it, I mean, and it was from immediately when you came out of this, your attitude, I would have to imagine, and I don't want to take you to, you know, a dark place, but were there, I mean, there had to be some down moments, I would imagine, when you first came out of this and what your life was going to be.
No, I don't think that there was any down moments because I was psyched to get a really cool wheelchair. I was really just excited to be alive. And, when I hear the questions that I was asking immediately following my surgery, I was just psyched to be there. I mean, the question was, did they cut my jeans off? Is that my favorite pair of jeans? Well, I'm going to have to go shopping. So, it's just, I'm just happy to be here, you guys. And I don't know how to express that enough. It's just such a blessing. And, of course, there are going to be rough moments, and I get that, and there have been rough moments, but I look at that and I say it's such a great event that I'm able to persevere and to get through it. And, sometimes it's hard to get out of bed and get into my wheelchair by myself, but you know what? I at least have that opportunity to do that, so it's still pretty cool.
Again, on the poster that you signed for my daughter, it said, always reach for the stars. So we're in the position you're in right now. What is that for you? What would that same message be for you now?
Well, right now, reaching for the stars would be I'm learning how to drive, so I'm reaching for the stars and hoping to stay off the sidewalks. My husband, Tom Golich, you've known him for quite some time. He has this big, huge, ginormous truck. And, aiming for the stars coming Thursday is that I'm going to be trying to get into that truck by myself. So that's what it is. It's every single day is a new challenge. And, I look at that challenge and I take it and I say, this is going to be the greatest challenge that I've had in my entire life. And what I'm doing here right now at the rehab hospital that I've been at for quite some time is really, I feel like I'm training for the Olympics again. On Saturday, my body aches and I just want to sleep in and not do anything. And that's exactly how it felt when I was training for the games. So, it is a challenge, but every single day is one. And, man, it's just awesome.
It seems almost too easy to say your training at a young age to become an Olympic swimmer would help you in this situation. I'm sure it has somewhat, but I know obviously you've been working out with other people now that have helped you as much or more. But how did the athletic training growing up and the mindset help you in this situation?
It's helped a lot because, when you wake up in the morning and you get woken up and that you're going to be seriously training and working out from 8 in the morning until 4 or 5 in the afternoon, that takes a lot of mental toughness. And in order to do that, you have to have this background that, I'm doing this for a reason. Back in the day, it was for a gold medal, and it was for the United States. Right now, it's for myself, and it's for my family. So it's definitely very, very similar. I just wish that I could eat the 5,000 calories a day that I used to eat when I was training. Not so much.
Amy Van Dyken-Ruin is with us, six-time Olympic gold medalist. Amy, I'm sure there are a lot of people listening to this conversation right now who are in a similar situation as far as their health is concerned that you are, and maybe don't have the same attitude that you have, maybe are afraid or are depressed or are worried about their futures. What is your message to them?
To just live every day to its fullest. And, sometimes it sucks. But look at the positives, and sometimes it might be something small, like a ladybug landing on your hand. That's a great event, and take that because ladybugs are good luck. I don't know if everybody knows that. But, just to live every moment that is happy and to be happy for that moment and to realize that, you are doing something for yourself and for your family and for other people. And if you're really sad, the thing that you can do to make you pull out of that is to smile. I know it sounds really weird, but it works.
A couple of things, Amy. What's the ultimate goal for you?
Gosh, the ultimate goal, of course, is to walk out of this hospital. That would be the ultimate goal. Now, if I don't do it, am I a failure? No, absolutely not. There is a possibility. I do have a lot of movement, no feeling, but a lot of movement in my hip flexors. So there is a possibility they can put me in braces that will lock my knees out so I won't, pop and flop them all over. And get into crutches and be able to use my hip flexors to throw my legs forward, that would be walking. And that right there would be a success as well. So that's the goal. If I do it or not, I'm still happy. I've still accomplished a lot.
And on the inspiration front, as far as helping others, obviously you have a lot of work ahead for yourself. And why do I see you kayaking down the road and parachuting and doing all those amazing things? But while you're trying to do some of those things, will this eventually lead you to be on the road to being a inspirational speaker, which I know you've done for athletics-wise, but for this situation around the country to help others? Golik,
if people want to hear what I have to say, I would absolutely love to share that with them. You learn lessons every single day. And when you're talking about kayaking, today we're going around a park around here in Denver, Wash Park, and I'm going to be riding a bike. So, yeah, I know, pretty much awesome.
Well, Amy, listen, I'm just sitting here looking at some of the reaction that is coming in on Twitter and just how moved and again, I think inspired is the right word people are by you and by your strength. And so we thank you for the time today. We wish you nothing but continued success and good health, and we'll certainly check in again. Thank you very much for taking a few minutes today, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You guys, too. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Amy.
That's Amy Van Dyken-Ruin. With us on Mike and Mike's, I'm speechless. I don't even know what to say.
It's unreal, isn't it?
I don't know what to say. I was reading. I actually first saw it. Your wife was retweeting a bunch of stuff that she was tweeting. And, it's easy to tweet something. I mean, it's not that hard to type something and you're trying to send out a message. But I think it's legitimate. I think it's genuine with her. I think she genuinely has an appreciation for just being alive. I had not heard her tell this part of the story before, that there was a real chance she wasn't going to be, and maybe that's part of her gratitude for her condition, no matter what it may be.
It's incredible. The attitude, I mean, you want to talk about what the mind can help with. It's amazing. I don't know of any other word.
I'm very touched, and we will most certainly check back in again with her. And I could just see from the initial reaction how much people enjoyed that interview, and I'm very glad to hear that. All right, we continue in a moment on Mike and Mike. Right now, a word from La Quinta. Ask any big leaguer who's ever faced a 90-mile-an-hour fastball what baseball is all about. He'll tell you it's all about being ready, just like business travelers who take being ready to the next level with La Quinta Inns and Suites.
Just book at LQ.com, and the day of your arrival, La Quinta will send a ready-for-you alert the second your room is ready. The ready-for-you alert only at LQ.com. La Quinta, ready for you, so you'll be ready for business. We're back after this on Mike and Mike.
Get to Subway.
I like this song a lot. This is Imagine Dragons, right? They sing this, right? Yeah, it's a good song. I like this. Mike and Mike brought to you by Mazda. Improve your road game. Mazda is the only automaker to have 2 sedans on this year's Car and Driver's 10 Best. The Mazda 3 and Mazda 6 combine the performance you want with the efficiency you need. What do you got?
It's just amazing. I mean, guys like, who really liked that interview? Jim Kelly.
Sure. I'm sure he would, yeah.
Jim Kelly and what Jim, what he's going through. We had him on the V Foundation auction day and how he's inspiring people and said what a great interview that was as well. It's just now there are so many people who weren't in the spotlight that have unbelievable issues that they're dealing with it and deal with them in great ways. But when people who are in the spotlight, things happen to them and they have a chance to influence others, that's what people like Jim Kelly and people like Amy Van Dyken, they choose to go down that road and they choose to help.
I was speechless. I don't even know what I just tweeted that I was bordering on speechless as I was listening to her talk. I don't even know what to say. And look, there have to be down moments. It requires having the right support people around. Right. She's talking about her husband, and it's just great. It's just great. I mean, she sounds like a person who doesn't want you to feel sorry for her. My inclination is to do that anyway.
Well,
but I'm going to try very hard not to.
But I mean, from minute one, when you heard about the accident till you first heard her initial reaction, which I believe was a tweet, it was like, are you kidding me? You could have this attitude this quickly to where she's going out bike riding today and she's going to be kayaking and learning to drive a car. I mean, it's incredible. I'm with you. I was just dumbfounded from a girl whose poster is on my daughter's wall saying "Reach for the stars," and now she's doing that in a whole other vein right now.
Here's a good one. Greg tweeted at me, some people wear shirts that say attitude is everything. Amy Van Dyken lives it. So anyway, I'm really glad we were able to bring it in. Every once in a while we do something right. Yeah. Okay, this is new news. This just was breaking during this hour. This is in a release from the NCAA. The NCAA will provide $70 million for concussion testing and diagnosis of current and former NCAA student athletes as a part of its agreement to settle claims in several consolidated concussion-related class actions. The settlement agreement, which also includes educational initiatives and $5 million in concussion research, will resolve the pending class actions, which are now consolidated in federal court in Chicago. The agreement conditions are subject to approval by this judge and that judge. In addition to the establishment of a $70 million fund to cover testing and diagnosis of concussions, the NCAA also is pledging $5 million in research and has established new procedures for testing athletes during games and putting them back on the field.
Okay, here's the thing, as far as I'm concerned with the whole concussion deal. Has the concussion situation been handled great by all parties involved over the years? Absolutely not. Now, one thing that has changed is the knowledge that we have now about head injuries is way more than it was even when I was playing, forgetting even years before that as well. Was it handled great by teams or by leagues or by players? And that's something, quite honestly, you even want players to learn. But players, I think, have the toughest time and will always want to go back out and play. Hopefully they're learning a little better, getting smarter. I know I wasn't smart about it, but you want people to be smarter. But leagues now, college, teams, NFL programs, high schools, whatever, are learning more. So after all these lawsuits are being settled, the one in the NFL, the one in college, I still say right now, and as my wife works for the Heads Up program for the NFL, her line that she uses when moms are afraid to let their kids play football, I think her line is the line right now. And I think it's true because you hear all the bad stuff about the concussions now. Right now, it's the best time to play football. It's the best time to play football. There has never been so much emphasis, and that's what I want to do with this. I hope anybody who needs the money for anything gets it. But now I want to spin it forward. And this is a great time right now because of the education and the knowledge that we have. To now that we're now giving to the youth leagues with the Heads Up, tackle the right way, understanding head injuries and everything that goes along with it, from fitting your equipment the correct way. Because when I talk to little kids who play football, I say, guys, you're the next ones we see on Sunday. Where do you think all the guys on Sunday played? They all played where you're playing.
Right.
So that's what's going to happen. So it is the best time right now to play football because the education is an all-time high. The sensors are at an all-time high of understanding what we've done wrong and what can now be done right to help make it a safer game.
Under the proposed settlement, all current and former NCAA student-athletes in all sports and divisions who competed at an NCAA member school within the past 50 years may qualify for physical examination, neurological measurements, and neurocognitive assessments. The agreement covers academic accommodations for student-athletes with concussions. So if you have a concussion, you get help. Mm-hmm. Return-to-play guidelines, educational programs, research, and plaintiff's attorney's fees. Bodily injury claims are not part of this settlement. So this is not a settlement that this does not encompass then all the people who may be claiming that they have serious injuries that have not been handled. This is mostly about research and about understanding and about guidelines and about keeping kids who are playing on a college level, the overwhelming majority of whom will never make a living playing, from getting hurt.
The understanding and the research are getting better, and as we teach that to the lower levels on up, they have to accept this teachings and the research and put it into practical application.
All right, we're on our way to Chicago. We're throwing at the first pitch at Wrigley Field tonight. We'll see you there and be back in Better Than Ever tomorrow. Mike and Mike.
ESPN Radio.